Well, for all of the non-supercar classes, it's been a little while since they've been in racing action. Last time out was actually all the way back at the Buriram International Circuit just a couple months ago. The rest of the supercar paddock has done its first trip to Sepang International Circuit. It's time for... sorry, I've got that the wrong way around. It was Bang Sen the last time that we saw all of these guys, which is why I was getting super excited to see them back at Buriram. Ladies and gentlemen, New Thailand Super Series is back for another round. Races 5 and 6 for your Super Pickup, Super Compact, and Super Eco classes. And we'll be getting into qualifying for the Super Compacts here in just a few moments. Qualifying sessions, 2 of them we'll have on the card for us here this morning. The rest of the categories have already done their qualifying sessions yesterday afternoon, and those were the last classes out on track, finishing with your Super Pickup A class at about 5:30 yesterday afternoon local time in Thailand. So as I welcome you all in for another day's worth of racing coverage, it's Scott Rankin and Dan Yeaman behind the scenes of things. Dan, been a little while since we've been back to Buriram International Circuit, but this one is all centered on the minor classes, and well, the super pickups. They're going to be the big card, I think, this weekend.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Scott. And I mean, yeah, we came here to start the season in May, and we come back here in August for races 5 and 6 for our B-Quik Thailand Super Series categories for their year. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what our TSS categories here, and is that these cars, yes, certainly don't necessarily get the same draw cards that we get in terms of the drivers that do choose to come and race in TSS Supercar GT3, for example. But nevertheless, this is where the drivers, mainly from Thailand, but from the region in general, this is where we get to see them put their best work on in some cars that are, I mean, quite unique in many respects as well. These pocket rocket machines that we see here, in particular with this footage from Super Compact, but as you mentioned, the Super Pickups as well, being what we'll see here today as well.
Yeah, and for those of you watching along at home and just sitting down and enjoying things, grab yourself a coffee. We're going to be running right through Super Eco. Will be out on track here in... sorry, my apologies. That was just finished in terms of things. I'm looking at the wrong calendar. I'm actually looking at yesterday's coverage in terms of things. But yeah, it's going to be the Super Compacts will be rolling out for the first of their 2 qualifying sessions here this morning. It'll be 15 minutes, and then we'll take a break of about 10 minutes before they'll send them back out. Remember, driver swaps as well for the Super Compact categories. That'll be kicking us off, which is why they've got 2 individual qualifying sessions. The rest of the categories did their qualifying yesterday afternoon. That is all now done and locked into the books. And then after that, we've got a new car that's coming here this weekend. The Thailand Super Series will welcome TCR Asia along for a little bit of racing action. And we'll be bringing you the coverage of that this morning as well. So they will follow immediately after. It will be 2 qualifying sessions for TCR Asia. The first of which will be a 20-minute shootout. Second, which will only be a 10-minute qualifying session before we get into the first of our racing action prior to the lunch break, which will be Super Eco, 12 laps to go the journey, and then of course one of the most hotly contested categories, the Super Pickup D2, the C-Class drivers, will be the last category to be out on the circuit before lunchtime. So an interesting way to start the weekend.
Yeah, it will be. There's plenty of action, from our Thailand Super Series categories, as was that introduction of something new for us in terms of the TCR Asia class joining us this weekend as well. So this is going to be fun to watch, I think, and look forward to seeing what what comes out on track, and how the racing goes here. Indeed, back at Buriram. For those, if you haven't watched much of the TSS coverage that we've been able to put on the past 2 years now, track numbers, the tracks we do visit is relatively limited. Yes, we do visit. Basically, we've got Buriram, Chung International Circuit here, the Bang Sen Grand Prix, and Sepang for our GT categories, and then they come back to Chung. Unfortunately, not a huge number of circuits, but it does also mean, in a sense, Scott, we get to see a chance for drivers to demonstrate a bit of evolution. Now, that is also very dependent on track conditions being somewhat similar and favourable, which we can't guarantee. I mean, unfortunately, you missed out on it last time at Sepang. We went from a wet, dry day 1 for the GT cars, and then day 2 just got completely rained out by the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of keeping half an eye on that as well. And the other thing that I was sort of looking at and thinking about in the back of my mind is that, out here in Australia, we've just transitioned into spring, So for these guys, they're heading into autumn. Conditions will be a little bit cooler. The last time we were here back in May was actually at the back end of spring for Thailand. So that'll be an off track. That'll be a lap deleted in the background out there. So you can see qualifying has already kicked itself off, and green flag is underway, which means times will be coming in nice and quickly. And over the next few moments, we'll start to get an understanding. That's a big rear lock up there on the 25 machine. That is going to be a huge mark on that right rear tyre as well for the 25 machine that he'll have to deal with for the remainder of the qualifying session as well. Sits currently Nora at Apavat, sits out of 4th position at this point in time. First time on the board, 57.643. So huge mark on that tyre, and that'll be vibrating a little bit like driving on a 50-cent piece, you'd imagine.
Yeah, you'd think so. And that'll not be ideal, but at this point in time, press on and deal with it, and that will be the play here. So keep our eyes on here. Got just about 8.5 minutes coming up in this session here, so already approaching halfway through this one. Yeah, I'm seeing even more drivers. So we've had a total of 4 lap times deleted so far for track limits. The number 14 on their second lap, Tanaroj and Tanapatra in that car. The 88 machine, where are they? It's Yacht Sarun and Hiraharu in the DC Garage Kuroki Racing Honda CRZ. Lap time deleted. Then on lap 3, the 38 machine of Mitchell and Mohammed Akib, the Wing Hing Motorsports Toyota Yaris, had a lap time deleted, along with Budamont for the YK Motorsports Honda CRZ, the number 95 there. So bit of a rundown there of how things are at the city. You go, just under 8 minutes now left in the session as they work their way onto the front straight, focusing here on the 25 of Nora Apavat, one of our Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand cars. In saying that, there we go. Switch back over to one of the YK Motorsports cars and your provisional pole sitter at the time, Tanaroj there in the number 14 Scott.
Yeah, it looks like it's a little bit of... you definitely want a little bit of tow if you can certainly get it anywhere around here. So, making sure at the same time that you can pick up a tow, have it be useful as well. There's no point in picking up a tow and then getting held up, improving the lap time as well. An opportunity, perhaps, if you get caught a little bit, to cool off the tyres, reset, and go again for one more flying lap. Just keeping half an eye on sector times at this point in time. Full-Pon and the 33's just gone purple for the Honda CRZ Alpha Factory Racing Team. Car just went purple in Sector 1. Thanaraj, by the way, improving in Sector 2 as it currently stands. Just set the new fastest Sector 2 time. But I think it's going to be quite hotly contested at the top of the timing sheets, because they've both just come across that start-finish line. That's your change for best times as it currently stands. Chaya now sets the fastest time in sector number 3, and the 23 machine's coming to the lane, so it'll be the end of probably that qualifying session with 6 minutes on the clock. Probably not enough time to get back out there, but it'll be a preparation time. Remember, there is a short 10-minute break between the 2 qualifying sessions for Super Compacts, so a little bit longer to work on the car. Perhaps if they've got something there that they need to adjust or fix, they can get in, get that done, and get that car repaired for qualifying too. But the 23 machine, Nardole was behind the wheel. They're 4th at the moment, so early end of their qualifying.
Yep, it would seem to be the case. But yeah, as you're saying, we were watching the 14 and the 92 as we look back here at Chaya on track once again, still pushing. It seems both of those cars improving under the 1 minute 56 bracket. You can see actually they're now over half a second clear of Fuapon in 3rd. As Chaya, a bit of lock from him as well. Going down into turn 5 there. One of these spots here where these cars are committed power through a left-hand kink and then slamming on the anchors to try and get it pulled up before they sweep back out here through 6 and 7 as car in the pit lane with the hood up. That's not a good look for the 59 of Chotanin and Anawat. Next to Romai Rimna Motorsport, I believe that is. Unfortunately, the team name gets cut off on the timing screen, so I can't quite read that one in full. But that's not ideal with 5.5 minutes left on the clock. They're in the pits and the bonnet's up. They're looking at the engine there to see what's up. Fingers crossed for them. They'll be able to sort that one out, as indeed the number 23 machine here now definitely in the box and with the fans out too. So currently sitting in 4th place is Nardole in the second of the Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand. I should say it's the leading car from Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand at this point so far. So fingers crossed for them. Happy with that result.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, cool the car off, reset it. If you perhaps running that engine a touch too hot, maybe some extra blanking for the qualifying session, there could be a plan to just go short, sharp and hard and just get out there, get 2 or 3 laps in and get back in, cool the car off, reset it. Remember, some of these teams as well, driver changes to do. So give them some extra time to get the other driver in, and the 14th, Anaroj, is actually going to get into the pit lane as well, 4 minutes on the clock. So you would assess that there is not enough time for them to get back out there. For the Toyota Gazoo Racing Team Thailand. And by the way, I'm just doing a little bit of a weather search as well. I'm going to mention it, and then the rain's probably going to disappear a little bit, but there is quite a high chance of rain, basically from about 12:30ish all the way through to about 4 o'clock this afternoon. So they're expecting perhaps a shower, looking about 13 mils worth of rain expected in the area later on this afternoon. Not seeing any clouds though in the background of those shots at the moment, but a lot cooler, about 4 to 5 degrees cooler than the last time we were here, and the humidity's down about 20% as well. So that's the big key, is that the last time that we were here all the way back in May, we're seeing quite high temperatures and quite high humidities. So we were seeing a lot of failures, and I was sitting here going, look, it's probably just due to not being able to get the car cool enough, cool things off. Well, I'm expecting probably from the weekend we should see a lot less mechanical DNFs, I would say. Fair assessment, you think, Dan?
Fair assessment, I think, yes. Drivers and teams will have to be keeping in mind all those things. And I think, yeah, for these cars here that are towards the front of the field, at Norat here, currently sitting in 6th place at the moment. So you got 1st, 4th, 6th and 7th, because you've now got Tanaroj, Nardol and also Kajonsak in the pits, along with Norat there. So I think for those guys, they're happy with where they're at. I mean, either they'll stay on top or they'll be close enough to the front. They have to give a bit of extra time to take care of the cars here and make sure that they're all set to go for qualifying 2. As you said, it's a reasonably short turnaround to get into Q2. Not this afternoon, just coming up shortly, even just a 10-minute break to allow drivers and teams to double check things. So if you can give your cars extra time in conditions like this, as you said, it's a little better out there at the moment than it was earlier this year in May. But in saying that, I'm going to pretend you didn't say anything about the rain, because let's just say the amount of time we spent last year like, ooh, is it going to rain? And then it didn't rain. So if it comes, it comes, and I'll say no more.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention it, just leave it out there. It's been discussed now. So look, it's been mentioned, but I'm seeing a few drivers improving. I was just looking at that 38 machine. If you remember, the Mitchell and Mohammed Akib car was in with a really strong fighting chance. I think it might have been in race 2 of the weekend back at the first round of the season in May here as well. So they had pace in that car. They're out circulating. Mitchell's behind the wheel at the moment. And sector time's not necessarily improving. So yeah, look, I mean, you know, there was some, yeah, and then there he is actually coming down the lane. I was just going to say he disappeared off the end of the lap chart, so was expecting him probably to come into pit lane. You can just see there's probably about half the field has already jumped into the lane and they're done. Fuapon and Fao Fong in the 33 machine, who currently sit 3rd on the timing sheet, albeit 0.6 of a second off Chayar as it currently stands. They're about the only car inside. There's the top 8 that's actually out on track at the moment. So I'm not seeing particularly quick sector times from them as well. So it looks like qualifying just about done with 55 or so seconds on the timing screen. So 27 machine. This car actually had a fair few lap times deleted. I did see a whole host of messages for Pirapeats. So lap time and track limits is probably the biggest piece of advice that he'd be giving. But then again, you're pushing a fair bit harder in qualifying. So running up against the boundaries, but the stewards have been quite harsh on those ones, as they tend to be during qualifying as well, Dan.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. You're allowed to push up to the limits. If you go over them, they will be monitoring those and just crack down on that there to make sure you're not getting an advantage. And And I mean, look, the list now is pretty decent. We've had a few more cars. The number 27 had 2 laps apparently deleted for exceeding track. So maybe something at the final turn that would perhaps suggest. The number 15 machine had a lap deleted. Their 5th lap deleted. Number 33 has had 2 messages about track limits come through now on the same lap deleted. And in amongst all of that stuff, apparently some issues from Super Eco. Team manager for car number 9 in that category has been called to talk to race control. So try and get some confirmation if we can figure out what that might be.
It'll just be a discussion because they haven't been out on track.
It should be, yes. That is true. Or if they haven't been out on track today, they will have had practice and qualifying yesterday to start their weekend off. But yes, checkered flag has now flown, and it looks like the number 34 for good measure has had its 6th lap deleted for track limits. So I believe we can now call the classification pretty well. It's provisional because of course it could change before the racing today, but I think it's pretty set in stone now, and it means that for YK Motorsports, number 14 of Tanner Roj and Tanner Patra will be starting on pole position with Chaya Muangnam alongside them in the M&M shop by Nexter Honda CRZ as well.
Yeah, some good lap times there from those guys. They've been consistent. They've been towards the front. Generally consistent sort of teams and drivers that we've sort of been looking at. It's the 14, 92, 33 and 23. They've been reasonably consistent. Chenya Boot's got pace as well. So when we do the flip around, remember for the teams that have actually got 2 drivers on board, so that's currently the 14 of Danaraj, will hand over to a secondary driver, which should be Thanapatra. The 33 machine sits in 3rd place. We'll be handing on over on screen. How's that for timing? Philpon will hand on over to Falfong. 15 machine that we're looking at the moment is going to be a driver swap. They sit down in 14th spot. Sita V will get out of that car and hand it on over to Thanawit. Yeah, there's a few drivers up and down the field that'll be doing driver swaps. Nardol will hand over to Tanshanok out of 4th place, then 23 car as well. And the 95. So 4 of your top 5 will have to do a driver swap. So the 95 machine, Budamont was behind the wheel for qualifying 1. Chanya Boot will be behind the wheel for qualifying 2. And that will change things up. Reminder for the Super Compact when we see them later on today, 60 minutes plus 1 lap in terms of their race distance. You can see all the activity. The big thing that I was sort of looking at cars up and down pit lane and those earlier stops, the cars that dived into the lane a fair bit earlier down there, it wasn't racing around those cars. It wasn't a hive of energy. That sort of dictates that there'd be some sort of mechanical issue or something they're looking to get fixed. It could have just been we noticed something, let's just have a look. And get in, get out, and you can see already tyre swaps going on for a few cars. They'll be getting a green set of tyres on, try and get some lap time out of the hand cooks. Of course, get yourself a nice little bit of track position as well. And sometimes it can allow you to protect the tyre just a little bit as well. Don't have to fight too hard deeper in the field. Yeah, look, there wasn't a nest of activity anywhere. It was just sort of really calm, really relaxed. So I'm not looking at anything that's going on and going, oh, that screams danger. That screams, something's been bent and needs to be replaced.
Yeah, so far from what I can see, it's been fairly tame in this qualifying session so far today. So yeah, just a couple of drivers pushing the limits, locking up some tyres, and getting laps deleted. There was just that number 59 machine that came into the pits a little earlier, and as a result, they've ended up down in 17th out of the 19 cars that apparently took to qualifying. So it looks like Tanner Patch is going to head to pit exit, which is a bit of an early call because pit exit isn't going to be open for another 6 minutes here today. So see here also not the only car heading out. So we've got the number 9 of Chaya Mungnam, M&M shot by Nexter, is sending their CRZ to the front of the queue, and then both the YK Motorsports cars, so Tanabatra in the 14 and it'll be Chanya Boot in the number 95. So those 3 cars, those 2 teams, all ready to go now, Scott, but they're going to have to sit tight for a couple of minutes down at pit exit before they're allowed to roll out for Q2, as I was saying there. As make that 5 cars, I think. Yes, we've got... Who have we got there at the front of the queue? Unfortunately, I can't annoyingly read that number on the front of our leading car.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's Chaya that's second there. It's either Chaya or Chenya.
definitely try our second in the queue, the number 92. The M&M shop by next to Honda says it being bright yellow, thankfully does stand out from the YK Motorsports entries in red. There was a fourth car, and I think another car now joining behind them, so I think it's at least 6 odd cars now at the PX. So I think it's quite interesting to see there is that teams and drivers, they really want to get out there and get the most of their Q2 allocation in terms of on-track time, because yes, they will get themselves 15 minutes, but they're not willing to hang around. A couple of other teams, though, they are taking a moment here, keeping the air blowers going in the cabin, in the front of the car. Although you can see here, in the other case, other teams now also getting things prepared and ready to send their drivers up to pit exit as well in return.
Don't need to be first out. This isn't Formula One. Just need to be out. I tell you what, I've actually dramatic. I don't know about just as a racing fan thing. That's what this next comment's going to come, and I want all our racing fans to chime in the background as well. What do you watch across the world? And I know we do actually have quite a few. We're lucky enough with this series to have a lot of GT enjoyers, and I was actually talking to quite a few friends within the Australian sim racing scene recently, and brought up Thailand Super Series, and they all mentioned how much that they love tuning into the super pickup categories. But what other categories are people interested in? Because as racing fans, we don't just pick one. We all have a big interest right across the world. And I was keen. I've been really invested in Formula One this year. I don't know why, but this year for me is just all of a sudden resurged a bunch of interest. Dan, what are you watching when in your downtime?
At the moment, not a huge amount actually. I think the main thing I try and watch, well, the main thing I try and watch live is I try and get on and I watch F1 still. Given the fact we have strong representation in F1 as a country, Australia, that does sort of fuel my pride in seeing the progress of Oscar Piastri from at McLaren these days, and seeing Daniel Ricciardo still in the series or back in Formula One, and the question of whether he's going to have a drive next year at all, or whether he'll be finally, or maybe he'll be stepping aside at some point, depending on how things work. Because the latest rumours is something like Liam Lawson's now been guaranteed a seat by Helmut Marko, but as I had one person point out, though, that could be, in the grand scheme of things, you've still got Christian Horner's in charge of Red Bull Racing, the team. So, like, Helmut Marko, he can make comments of that, but maybe not necessarily going to. So there's that whole question there, and also the question of Sergio Perez's form and what does that mean for him. All of the hubbub there leading up to the mid-year break for Formula One stuff, but also coming back to Australian drivers, Jack Doohan just been confirmed literally yesterday that he will be joining the Alpine F1 team and finally promoted to Alpine F1. Well, someone also brought up a pretty savage statistic that it's the first driver promoted from the Renault Academy to the Renault Alpine, also the period of Lotus F1 team. Since, I think, Romain Grosjean in 2009, I think it was, someone had made that claim and posted that online. So that's the main thing. I try and keep an eye on our local V8 supercars category somewhat. It's a bit of a mixed bag, that one, in terms of keeping up to date with that. Other ones I've tried watching as well. Have watched a little bit of MotoGP when I can. Producer Jay Kennedy has just reminded us that his other one is keeping an eye on the NASCAR categories as well, and that's a fair point, keeping an eye on how Shane Van Gisbergen's going in Xfinity Series, as well as his Cup Series starts this year. After
Jay and I were actually discussing what Van Gisbergen's up to next year. We were actually talking about that off air before we went live. So yeah, we were discussing NASCAR as well. Yeah, continue on, Dan.
Well, honestly, I think that's about covers it all for me, really. Otherwise, it's just random snippets of stuff in it. Maybe IndyCar highlights packages. I try and watch those. I refuse to subscribe to the local official broadcast because it would be like one thing and one thing only. I don't want to spend that money on just one category as good as IndyCar for the most part has been. And saying that, this year's been definitely a little controversial for IndyCar when it comes to ownership structure and having ownership of teams in that series as well. Yeah, if you know all the drama regarding Penske, you know.
Moving on. Let's not touch that with a 10-foot pole. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure broadcasting for you. We're now going to be chased and hunted down by Penske Entertainment.
If they're chasing down this, then look, either we're doing much better than we think, or we got problems.
I think pit lane exit's probably a few moments away from opening, but yeah, no, I enjoy chalk because it's one of those things that whenever you get somebody new in, they're like, oh yeah, I'm interested in this category, and it's always just an off category. Surprisingly, I think actually some of the best racing in the world comes from Moto 2 and Moto 3. Moto 3 in particular, because it's always 20 cars under a blanket going to the end of the race, which is just, it's crazy, it's nuts.
It is indeed. Well, there we are. Pit exit opens right on cue. Qualifying session number 2 is underway as we watch the field come out of the pits. And Seb, I'm one man. I'm not going up against Penske unless you're talking about Roger, in which case that still wouldn't go up against that. Let's just not go there next time. How about that? So let's see here how our drivers in this second session make of qualifying and the conditions. Other one that's been put in by Jay in the background for us, Scott. Controversial pick it may be, but Formula E. Now, in saying that, once upon a time I did watch a bit of Formula E because in saying, whilst you can critique it for all you like, especially of course given the fact that the all electric, there is a bit of entertainment, sort of a bit of a factor missing from it. But the racing it provides, given the nature of going, let's make very small, very tight technical street circuits, because that kind of works for those cars for the most part. It does deliver good racing. If you don't mind, it definitely single-seater racing with elbows.
Yes. I like the elbowy nature of it as well. It is just gameable. It's just... Anyway, Formula E, if you haven't seen it and haven't watched it, it's something else. It's not conventional racing. Even with you take away the electric aspects of it, it's still not conventional racing. It's something completely different, and it's entertaining. So there you go. There is a fair bit more going on there. So yeah, that covers us at least for all of the side entertainment. And of course, more importantly, whenever Thailand Super Series is on, even whilst I'm moving significant distances, I had that on in the background, keeping me entertained whilst I was packing boxes and unpacking boxes across the course of a weekend. I was so disappointed that I wasn't able to be here for the Sepang round, and just tuning into that and watching the track conditions gradually devolve was so interesting across the course of the weekend. But in terms of things at the moment, tyres being brought in for everyone at the moment, and lap times about to be set for the first time in anger as the secondary drivers take to the track. And you can see on the timing sheets it has been a number of driver swaps for your super compact. Qualifying number 2 in progress. The run off of turn 2, the kink, and down to the hairpin down at turn 3. And I love this corner in terms of racing because there's an early entry line, there's a late entry line, there's a middle of the road line. The track is so open, and then it tightens just a little bit on the way out. So you've got to be accurate, you've got to carry the brakes, and you've got to be brave. You do, and of course I think it's balancing that aggression with and bravery with keeping it within the track. Yes, they might be on the Hankook Ventus F200 dry weather slick tires, but can easily overcook them and run yourself afoul of lockups and also track limits as well. Let's see here from Race Car in the Thailand Super Series YouTube chat. Formula 1, WEC. Okay, we didn't mention WEC. Again, another category I probably should keep up more with. I do like to keep an eye, obviously, Le Mans, 24 Hours of Le Mans. But it's also on the same streaming service officially here in Australia as IndyCar, and I just unfortunately don't find that enough value to officially watch. IMSA, that's a good one. I used to watch a bit of IMSA too, but these days I sort of haven't watched, even though IMSA, and I have to say credit to the organisers of IMSA, they actually put up all the races for free on YouTube for the international audiences. And I think you can actually watch them live as well. So they are streamed live to YouTube, plus then obviously being YouTube, the videos are kept up afterwards to watch back at your leisure. What have we also got? We've got Super Formula, thanks to Discord friends. Oh man, I mean, look, that's actually a real shame. I think I should have given Super Formula some more attention. I mean, for those who've watched us enough times, you'll know we've mentioned sim racing is our background in terms of how we sort of got introduced to this and what we sort of can talk about. And specifically, we both, if it's safe to say, we both main on iRacing. Definitely for me, I think that's safe to say for you, Scott. That's not good at all. Let's get back to what's happening on track. And for Anawat, this next to Romay Rimno Motorsport Honda CRZ is back in the pit lane. That
is not ideal, and he's getting out, Scott. That is not a good sign this early in Q2 after what we saw them in the pits in Q1.
And the problem for that car is that they haven't set a representative lap time at the moment. They did set a 2:06.143, but that was sort of just bringing the tires in, just circulating. It's just a lap time. It's not a lap time. It's 10 seconds off. So from Q1, the fastest times were down at the 55s. We had 2 cars down the 55s, which were the 14 and the 92. So at the moment, tires still slowly phasing in. Ooh, big old wide bolt down there and pulls the car up completely. He's in the gravel. That'll be why.
Oh dear me, Chanyabu in the number 95. Big lock up there in the turn 5. And that car looks pretty well bogged there. And in fact, little puff of exhaust smoke. I think he just tried to get it. Yep, no, is that inching backwards? If he's lucky, that might be able to get back to the racetrack. Oh, yep, here he coming backwards ever so slowly. But there you go, rear tires back up on the asphalt, and he gets it back on track. But just as he does so, the red flags will fly for this interruption here. So the timing couldn't have been worse. As a confirmation there on our overlays, the red flag comes up on the screen, and there we are. So just as Q2 is starting to warm up there, and well, they'll have to come back to the pits, take a momentary pause, head back out there again. Thankfully, with that car recovered by Chanyabu behind the wheel, Scott, this won't be a long red flag. But
I've just seen my favorite message from race control I've ever seen.
Yes.
Lap 3, time deleted, exceeded track limits. Yeah, you exceeded track limits. Yeah, you did. You don't
just maybe.
I don't think he exceeded them by a little way either. I think there was a fair distance. Oh, I've never seen that before.
I mean, look, it's official. That's what happened. You've got to record it as such. So basically, with that car recovered, unless there's something out on the circuit that needs to be cleaned up, which I don't think there is much, this will really be a case of come into the pits, I guess, open the doors, crack a bit of extra air into the cockpit of these cars, and then head straight back out, because there he is, bringing the number 95 into the pits. And there's a question actually from our producer here. Will that car be allowed to continue in qualifying? I actually don't have...
That's a pretty standard call. I've actually had that happen to me back in my motorcycle racing days, whereby we're at a state title, and I think we were in the last qualifying race to go through to the final to actually fight for the title itself, and we were running. Would have been on a 60cc bike. We were running. We can only fit 12 bikes on the grid because we were running dirt track, is what they call it. We were actually on oil track on close. They were cut slick tire, and there were 2 accidents on the first lap, and I was one of them, but I was 3/4 of the way around the track when I fell off. There was an accident in the first corner which actually triggered the red flag, but the stewards said that I was the bike that had caused the red flag. They removed me from that session. So I as far as I'm aware, my understanding of race procedures is that you cause a red flag, your session is done. In terms of qualifying, races can be a different issue. A lot of the time they will just pull you off the grid and go, yep, that's it, your race is done, you've triggered the red flag, you've ended the session. You know, most commonly it's because obviously damage or car's going to be extracted, but yeah, I mean, it depends on the circumstances. Was that worthy of a red flag? Honestly, I'm going to say yes. From a safety perspective, where that car was parked up, if there's the risk of a green flag actually at the end of pit lane, where that car was actually parked up, if there was actually something down on the track, they have to red flag that to extract that car, just in case. So, look.
Yeah, I think the other thing was, Scott, was just the fact that they waited a while there to see if the 95 could extract itself. It took a bit for Chanyabu to get reverse and not bury it in the gravel. So, the other side of it there is sort of like this whole game of like you've got to get it right in terms of
you can't risk safety. You absolutely cannot risk safety.
Give him a chance to get out, but there has to be a point where you call it and say, right, you've had your chance to get out of the gravel, but we need to call it so that the drivers.
Norat that we were just looking at in the 25 car that was still the Toyota Gazoo Racing Team Thailand entry, still in the pit lane. By the way, also not set a representative lap time.
I believe so. Timing tells me that the well, there goes. There's our provisional pole sitter, Tanapatra. 14 comes out. Chanyabu still in the pits, and we saw him jump out of the car. So I reckon you were on point there with that carry, sort of that expectation and carry over. That having caused a red flag, you'll be told not allowed to continue in the session. Still got Tanchinok, who's just coming out of the pits now, apparently in Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand number 23. Kitaharu for DC Garage with Kuroki Racing, the 88 Honda CRZ still in the pits. And yeah, Anna Watt in the 59. Honda City from next to Romeo Rimner Motorsports in the pits. Apparently, update on timing now says Noah Rat is heading out in the 25. So maybe just a bit of extra cooling needed for that car before they could get it back out on track.
I think it's clear air. I don't think that's actually
and
related
that too. And honestly, that too, yeah.
Where feeding in because it's quite a busy pit lane and quite a busy. You just don't want to be fighting for track position on laps where you're prepping the tires. You give yourself 30 seconds, all of a sudden track's nice and clear. Lap times are up and around the 1 minute 55. There is a fair bit of track to work with here. So, anyway. Back into tyre warming phases. The difficult part is with a two-phase qualifying effectively like this is you've brought the tyre in. They would have literally just been getting to the optimum temperatures and pressures on their tyres, really a nice phase to push on a little bit, and they had the red flag. So maybe they've taken a little bit of life out of the tyre, and then they've allowed them to cool a little bit as well. So repressurizing them, understanding what you've got underneath you. Of course, your pole sitter currently in shot, still on a warm-up lap as it currently stands. And you can see the same here from the 23 machine. So these guys are just distancing themselves because that's the other car just in front. So that's both the Toyota Gazoo Racing Team Thailand entries together on track. And remember, Norat, he kind of has to get a wriggle on here. 6 minutes left in the session. He's only set a 2:26, so he's 30 seconds off the pace.
Yeah, that kind of a time might not even count as far as the official timings are concerned. So yeah, it needs to put a proper one on the board. We can also see that my timing says the number 69 machine of Achitapon and Ayrton. Unfortunately, still not got a time here in Q2 either. So I get the feeling we might be lucky to get 18 starters here in Thailand Super Compact later on this afternoon when they go racing. As eyes on the pit garage at Toyota Gazoo Racing Thailand, as well as their cars out on track, as we watch here for Tanchinok to start really winding up for a flying lap. As looks like times are starting to come in. In fact, the red flag times for those that have just done their out laps coming in officially clocked it anywhere from 6 minutes to 8 minutes and beyond, since the timing apparently didn't stop whilst they were parked up in the pits.
An interesting note as well, we've just had a change for pole positions that currently stands. That's not going to stand though. So Phao Phong on the 33 machine set himself a 56.518. That was actually immediately note came through from race control to say, hey, lap time deleted, track limits exceeded. Car 27 is going to receive the same fate, which is Piripet. And we do have a new fastest lap time for the session set for the 24 next to Ramai Rimna Motorsports entry, 56.130. Still not back down into the 55s, and that's that car on screen at this point in time with the lovely orange, white and blue livery. That is a beautiful car that will be easily able to spot throughout the journey. Car number 27, 34 both now having lap times deleted. Safunapat, Funsub and Piripet Burafarat in a couple of the Honda City for Sky Gallery 34 machine, and the Honda CRZ Lex D car 34 and 27 respectively. Qualifying continuing on. Under 4 minutes left to run now, which means effectively it's going to be basically 2 laps from here. And another lap time deleted. So these guys are really... I wonder whether or not the shortened session effectively has made these guys push on a fair bit more, Dan.
I would say they are absolutely flinging it around here, based on the number of track limits deletions that I'm seeing come through from race control. Also need to keep an eye here on Giropat, because he's got the fastest first sector of anyone in the session so far, although his second sector about a second off, not great compared to the best in the session, which is a second off. So swings and roundabouts at this point. So I think, unfortunately, noting that sector 2 timing line is between turns 6 and 7. So between the left-hander is the double left as you come out of that part there, and then you swing back to the right. And the sector starts in the braking zone here for turn 3, this double apex or this really big hairpin, however you want to call it. So, yeah, not a great lap, as there's a right rear locking for the 33 machine as they come down. So Palfong is absolutely flinging it around here. 28.6, I believe, for his current sector number 1 as he works his way up. That's only 4/10 off the best sector 1 we've seen in the session so far of Jirapat. So if you can find some time here in sectors 2 and 3, may be challenged because he's only 2/10 off provisional pole.
Yeah, and that'll be the big key, isn't it? Just making sure you're in the right sectors, on the tyre at the right time. By the way, update on a couple different cars. The 24 now done in terms of qualifying. The 95 machine, Chen Boot behind the wheel of that one, now done in terms of qualifying. 88 Hitaharu's now done in terms of qualifying as well. And unfortunately, the 59 machine is not going to set himself a representative lap time. I'm still failing to see for a bunch of these cars with lap time deletions valid lap times that have been set. And time's starting to run out, so effectively from now you'll be starting your final lap time. So for the 33 cars down in the final sector, they will have one more flying lap. And Chen Boot, I think that was the 92, no sorry, my apologies, Chaya making his way through. He's qualifying too, not quick at the moment, so this is going to be an improvement now from him. Best of his first sectors. Sector 2 is reasonable, not quick, but reasonable for him. Out of the final corner, on the run through to the line. The 92 entry. Can he find some time in the final sector? Chaya? No is going to be the answer. 2/10 down on his previous best lap time. So he's got a 57.202 on the board. That lap at 57.4. This will be his final lap of qualifying. Final opportunity to find some representative time. The teammate will slide in behind him. Final laps now for everyone, and it looks like, I wonder whether or not the track temperature might have come up. Maybe there's some oil or something's been dropped. We've lost probably, what, half a second in terms of pace from session 1 to session 2 here, Dan?
Yeah. Fastest times, yeah, not too great there, as we'll pick up that car later on. The number 65 machine coming through here of Vasu. It's just on a 1 minute 157.7 to put themselves down in 10th place. And see, they've got time here for one more flyer as well. As we're being told, keep an eye on Tanapatra, and the timing screens has got a personal best sector 1, fastest second sector of anyone in the session. So this could easily be improving. May go up to second place here, is now get him on screen. And in fact, only 4/1000ths of a second behind Palfong for second place. And actually will get across the line just in time to do one more lap again if he so chooses. Final sector is unfortunately really bad.
Well, he got lapped. Oh, look at the slide run down to turn number 1. Did you actually see the 29 car of Alif Shirky in the background? He encountered him in the final sector. That'll be a lap time deleted, so that's over. And the checkered flag will now fly. Norat Apavat in the 25 entry is going to be one of the first cars that crosses the line. Car shoots off out of the final corner. I reckon that there was an impeding issue there in the final sector for the 29 machine. So I reckon that might have cost potentially Thanapatra pole, because all he needed to get to pole was about 2.5 tenths. And he definitely lost more than that in the final sector. And these next laps not going to be valid. So
yeah, not sure what happened there as our last couple of cars come across the line to take the checkered flag. Chaya, and this is the thing, it's Chaya Mungam, starting race 1 of the weekend, race 5 of the season for them, on the front row, second place. Going to be starting race 6 tomorrow, down in 7th. So it's not been a great second session for them and the number 92 machine. So a bit of a variation in performance there. And yeah, pace is down in this session compared to Q1. And also considering that based on the way the rules work with qualifying and driver, how they grade themselves and such, that means that we're looking, arguably, these are meant to be the quote-unquote faster drivers here in Q2. So that would definitely suggest something on the track, or just temperatures have come up a little bit, and therefore that's not worked out. And true tyres. Cause I don't remember seeing a huge number of tyre changes down in the pits. It's a possibility they were all running same set of tyres, protecting the tyre sets for later on in the races this weekend.
Were they even green is the other question. Were they saving a green set to do both qualifying sessions on as maybe a backup set they'll use at the tail end of a race or something after a pit stop? You just don't know in terms of the tyre allocations. And the other thing to consider as well was that tyre used during practice? Do they use older tyres during the practice session across Thursday and Friday? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you qualifying has now been run and done. Your pole position for race number 6 for your Thailand Super Compact is gonna be the 24 machine. Jirapat set the time. Teammate of his is Thanathorn for the next Romai Rimna Motorsports entry. Set that time reasonably early in the session. It would not be beat. Second place will be Falfong and Fuapon in the Alpha Factory Racing Team 33 CRZ, and making it an all CRZ podium from qualifying, Thanapacha and Thanaroj in the YK Motorsports entry. Then it's the next two cars, Toyota Gazoo Racing Team Thailand. So Noah Rat did find time at the tail end of the session, slots into 4th, and Tanchanok Nardol will be in behind him in 5th. Chenya Boot managed 6 places front 3 rows. Chayar 7th. Mohammed Nakib had a fair few lap times deleted as well, 57.229 for him. There was not very much between himself and 7th position. Hidaharu home in 9th in the 88 machine, and your top 10, Vasu, will be rounding out your top 10 from qualifying. We'll step away for just a little bit of time, ladies and gentlemen, before we bring to you a new series that we haven't covered thus far. TCR Asia Qualifying 1 and 2 will be on just after this. Well, hello and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. TCR Qualifying now going to be rolling out a pit lane, and New series, new category for us to be working on here. 20 minutes is going to start us off for qualifying number 1. Then there'll be a 5-minute turnaround for qualifying number 2. And there's going to be a couple of different things to sort of cover here. 10 cars going to be in attendance this weekend for TCR Asia racing action from the Buriram International Circuit. A mixture of Hyundai Elantras and Honda Civics. 2 of the Honda Civics, one of them an FK2, the other one an FL5. The rest of the field are going to be in Hyundai Elantras. All single driver cars as well, and 2 categories as well to cover this weekend, Dan. We've got the main category and the cup category, and from what we can tell, it looks as if the cup category is going to be an amateur class as well.
Yes, so our last couple of cars coming out of the pits here now. Doyoung Huang in the Hyundai N by Z Speed. Was it Z Speed or Z Speed? Actually, no, Z Speed is American. Let's not go with that. Yeah, so we're seeing here how these drivers go. So you basically take the super compact formula that we're used to with Thailand Super Series, and well, you have to beef it up a fair bit, actually, I have to say, given that this is a 2-liter front-wheel drive turbos, about 350 horsepower. Not a lot more in terms of aero, but definitely these cars have got bigger tyres. I mean, the flared fenders at the front end definitely speaks to that there. So let's see how the drivers tackle this. The interesting thing is, as you said, with the format, they get 20 minutes here in Q1, and then they'll turn around after 5 minutes and get only 10 minutes for Q2. They do have 2 races, and I do believe as a result, Q1 sets the grid for race 1 of their weekend, but then we'll go into Q2 setting the grid for race 2, but it's a very different. So we're curious to see here also how long it takes these drivers to get their tyres up to temperature and be setting the times that they're looking to represent as they come across the line. And, well, last laps start coming in out of pit exit, although they're still not representative just yet, of course.
No, so we'll start to get a little bit of a read on what the times are going to be this time by, but bringing the tyres in is the big thing. So first and foremost, and you can see it is a battle for track position a little bit at the moment, but it's not aggressive yet. And I'm actually really curious about this, because the difficulty these guys are going to have is absolutely they want to get some air onto those front splitters, and I think they're still sort of messing around with understanding how the pack's going to race, the temperatures in the systems, and working on everything put together. And you can see the fans starting to move out into the grandstand from the air-conditioned boxes at the top. Temperature's still being worked on, but the weaving's certainly not as aggressive as it was last time by for the 83 entry, with Liu Kuren behind the wheel. And everyone starts to settle down. Might see some drivers start to push on just a little bit in the next few moments or so. I'm seeing a mixture of times at the moment, anywhere from a 26 through to a 32 in the first sector, and drivers are sort of all quite spread out. Sector number 2, we're looking at 40 seconds all the way through to 49 seconds. You can absolutely tell that there is a lot of drivers still trying to just preserve the tyre, bring it in a little bit, trail some brakes, make sure everything's up to temperature, and there'll be a lot of that with a TCR, trying to make sure everything's right in the optimal range. And you might now start to see drivers stop with the weaving and start trying to set valid lap times. Max Hart will go to the top of the timing sheets with a 49.970, only there by less than a tenth of a second though, and then all the tyre warming game drivers start to come through. So no representative lap times at this point in time. We'll get down to sector number 1, and then we'll start to see, Dan, is what the goal is going to be for these drivers and what the real marker in terms of qualifying pace will be.
Well, I'd say for Max Hart and Umar Abdullah, they're not too far off what they're looking to do. Then saying that, they've just gone and set almost less than 25 seconds through sector 1. So these TCR Asia guys are not messing around, and we'll watch these 2 here at the front of the train as they wind up to speed. These cars, these have got some speed, definitely, compared to say what we saw. As I was saying, some similarity to some of the Thailand Super Compacts, but these cars, no, they are definitely really picking up the pace along the straights and through the corners too. As you can see, already down at turn 5, coming up on sector number 2. How about there though, Huang Dongyu in the number 14, and Anatorn coming up into second place, now into the 47s. That's a little wide there from Umar. That's going to invalidate that one, that's for sure. There's the man in second place for now. How's that? We saw it in our super compact categories earlier, but the inside, the right rear tyre is not well loved under brakes going into turn 3 by several cars.
Well,
it
the big
seems,
thing,
given
man,
that lack of rear weight.
that tyre was just about off the ground. Did you see that? It was barely in contact with the ground, so that's why it's pinching. So it's nothing to do with the bias and the setup. It's just that tyre is just about off the ground. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's all about the weight transfer and the fact that it's just making the barest of contact with the racing surface. That when he hits the brakes, it's enough to lock the tire up enough that it doesn't just freewheel or just hold dead still. But you can even see it there through turn 7. The car gets the right rear up off the ground a fraction, and just it's a combination of roll and pitch here is definitely playing its part for these guys. As there we go, back to our top 2 across the line. So Umar. Well, apparently improved the lap time, but that will surely get deleted. And yes, that message already come through that for Umar Abdullah, that point stand. But Max Hart, fastest driver now, going to a 45.2 as a pair of cars in the pit lane indeed. Two of the Z Speed Motorsport entries of Young AUG and Jiang Nan heading to the pits, it seems.
Yeah, and, well, they're going to be missing out on probably some very, very important part of the session, because those tyres would have been just coming into temperature and pressure. The fact that they're back into lane says there's something going on, something they're not necessarily all that happy with. And both of those cars, they're currently their best lap time 56.501 for Young Hoiji, and Jing Nan is 55. So at the moment, actually not even a valid lap time for either of them on both of those times, because they came to the pit lane. No valid lap time at the moment for 3 cars in the session. Zhang Nan is one of those, sits in pit lane, and Thorn another, and Daipo. So 21, 28, 82 still yet to set a valid lap time. They're going for another set of tyres. Are they going to have time to get those tyres in?
They might do, but yeah, this is definitely interesting play. At least I was expecting we'd probably see these drivers work their tyres for most of the session. It is, though, fairly bright, fairly sunny out in at the Chung International Circuit this morning, so it might be a case of being able to work with that here. So the second of the, what you should say, Hyundai M by Z Speed currently now controls the top 4 positions. Max Hart, Zhang Zhengdong, Benny Santoso, and here Huang Doyun. So they're doing pretty strong here. In saying that, they do have 4 of the 10 cars in attendance, and Z Speed Motorsports and another 4 cars entered separate to this. So Hyundai definitely well represented here this weekend. But let's see here around the final 2. That's a little wide. That's going to be a little slow into the start-finish straight for Huang. Although it will still improve him to 3rd place. Gets past Benny Santoso's time there in the background. Anna Thorn going to bring the number 28, one of our 2 Hondas from Delta Garage. Sorry, this is on the Z Speed Motorsport cars. My apologies there. Brings it round final turn. No improvement for him, though, at this stage. Now, curiously, I'm also taking a close look at the timing, Scott. We know we said there's a Q1, Q2 procedure and stuff, but there's also the fact that we've got a best time timing column. We've also got a second best time timing column. There's on track. Umar Abdullah spun around. Now, is that turn 5 and 6, maybe?
Let's have
a look at here. We're going to get a replay. And it is indeed.
Yep, so obviously just in a little bit too hot. Rotates around in the rear. Not quite able to get that car balanced. And yeah, I think the second best time is just in case there's a time deletion. For Max Hart, he's actually only got 1 valid flying lap. So a 45.247, and they're happy with that one. So there's a fair few drivers now getting lap time deletion messages. In fact, the 83 machines had a lap time cancelled as well. So I think what's going on is we're seeing a lot of time shuffling going on at this point in time, just to get everyone sort of shuffled back in the second lap time, because of course if they get their primary time deleted, does mean that that'll be their backup time that they'll shift to for the remainder of that session. Benny Santoso is worth keeping an eye on at the moment, because he actually leads the cup points and leads the way on track in terms of cup qualifying at the moment. He's had a very, very strong season. I was looking through the point score for TCR Asia as well. And yeah, so he's had a very, very strong season. That's another lot of smoke on the way down. Max Hart's come in for a fresh set of tyres too, and he's going to get back out there and have a crack at another flying lap to try and improve for qualifying number 1. And remember, there'll be qualifying 2 immediately after this one will be a shorter session. So qualifying 1, 20 minutes, qualifying 2, 10 minutes, and there'll be a 5-minute break in between the 2 sessions. So,
well, I'm just trying to think, because I'm just trying to think also, like, here in Australia with TCR Australia, we had a thing where basically it was, you had qualifying, and then you'd have a shootout session. And I'm just wondering, because, again, also looking at the way the timing screen has this second timing column for second best times. Just wondering if maybe that means that our times for the grids for both races are going to be set here in this session right now, and the extra 10 minutes is separate to that. But that's entirely hypothetical. I don't actually know for certain. More track limit or track lap times deleted. 4 track limits at on 6 laps. So the 83 machine of Lu Chi Ren and the 82 car of Daipo Fith Ramadan have lost times that they just set. I'll knock them back down the order. But focusing on the 28 machine of Anatorn, he comes around 4th in the pro category at the moment. 5th outright. Can he improve on a 146.994 here? Not seeing any personal best sectors on this lap though, so I think that's going to be a little difficult unless this is winding up to start again. Does a 47.015 though, so that critically puts his 2 lap times basically nose to tail, and that's probably one of the important things.
And it looked relatively clean as well. The 56 machine is going to be jumping out of the way. That is Benny Santoso just in front of him, trying to get completely out. Have a look at the heat haze that's coming through at this point in time as well. So probably worthwhile just starting to cool the car, cool the tyre down to have another crack. 7.5 minutes left in the session is enough time. That's just a nice off lap. Cool the car down and go again. Certainly something that's on offer. And can tell you Huang Doyun at the moment that sits in 3rd spot with the 46.242 is currently sitting in the pit lane. A little bit of a wiggle in the rear end of the car for the 97 machine of Yang Huiji, which is one of the Z-Speed Motorsports. In fact, the faster of the Z-Speed Motorsports cars comes out of the final turn to the line. It's going to set a new lap time, 47.235. So his new best lap time moves himself up into 7th spot. 82 machine now into the lane. And this is Daipo Fitra Medahan. Unfortunately for him at the moment, has not set a valid lap time either. So it looks like they're having some concerns with that car in the cup standings at this point in time. Indonesian driver, unfortunately. So interesting to note as well, leading the way is actually not a driver local to the Asia region. Drives under an Irish license, by the way, for Max Hart.
Yes, he does indeed. He's just also improved to a 1 minute 44.835, new fastest time in the session. It also means he's now got 2 times awfully close to each other. How's that there for the temperatures coming off the brakes? Here, so get the blowers on to try and cool those down because they're trying to get a pressure reading amongst all of that too. That would have been a little uncomfortable perhaps, but looks like, yeah, for Q1, Daipo Fitra Ramadan might be done here at this point in the session. And
still time.
Still time indeed, but we'll see if he goes back out or not. Because as you said, doesn't have officially have a best time recorder. And the odd thing is he's got last lap times, but no best times. So just needs to find something, it seems, in terms of track limits. And never mind, yep, just a quick check over the car. Need to probably get out there and get a time on the board if he can. So 5 minutes remaining in the session. That should be enough time to get 2 or 3 runs in. But,
so we'll give our fans watching at home probably a little bit more information on this series thus far this year. This is race number 5 and 6 for the TCR Asia category that they're qualifying for at the moment, looks to be qualifying for race number 5. They've already done 2 rounds at Sepang International Circuit on the 3rd to the 5th of May and 7th to 9th of June. So they've already got some racing action in Malaysia. They'll be back here as well in the middle of September, 13th to 15th of September, for 2 more races. Then they go on to the Ningbo International Circuit in China on the 11th to 13th of October. And get this, get to finish their season off at Macau in November will be the final round of the season. And I was picking through and having a look at some of the drivers that have actually participated in this series thus far. There have been 10 drivers scoring points, or we're just missing one of them, as Budianto isn't actually here this weekend. He's not, unfortunately. He's had a couple of retirements. It's a wide run down through turn 4 for the 97 machines. That'll be another lap time deleted. So we are missing one of our regular, I think we're actually missing 2 of our regular drivers. Zhang Zhendong, who actually leads the way in, has won 3 of the 4 races thus far this year. The other race win going to Max Hart. Not in attendance as it currently stands. And the other name that did appear over, that has run and finished 2 races back at Sepang a little bit earlier in the year, did the second round from the 7th to 9th of June, probably trying to get more track time at Sepang because he races in the Thailand Super Series, Douglas Koo.
Oh, there you go. How about that? Nice bit of extra material you found for yourself there, Scott, so credit to you for that one there. As eyes on one of our Kianos, and indeed it will be the number 18 of Zhang Zhendong.
All right, never mind. I take that back. He is here this weekend.
Good one, Scott. Just a bit of a oopsies. Now that one there for Zhang was a 150.8, so not a valid time. Max Hart comes into the pit lane once again with 2 minutes 45 on the clock, and currently sitting about half a second clear on fastest lap time and a second clear on second best lap time. I get the feeling Max there might be a little comfortable with where he's at. See here for Zhang what he can do though. First sector is nearly a second off a PB from Huang Doyun behind him in the number 14 machine. So I get the feeling this isn't a super competitive run for the number 18 on this particular lap, unless he's just building back up for a final flyer. As there we are in the pit lane for your provisional pole sitter of Max Hart, and I think he'll be happy to stay there for the next 2 minutes, but we'll see, because that's a bit of chit chat with one of the crew members there, and looking at the dash in particular, folks. He's trying to see, he's looking at something there on the dash. There's something not quite right, perhaps.
Session, so that's last lap. So whether or not the session timings, and have a look at the water temperature as well. 94 degrees at this point in time. They're maintaining reasonable oil temperatures, and that's the dash that they do use on their systems. And in fact, it's actually simulated. I've seen that dash before because I do drive a little bit of TCR. Sponsored by Irish Whiskey. Sponsorship I probably need to get myself involved with. I was doing some more research, did find the other driver who's making their debut for TCR Asia for 2024 this weekend. Sits out a 5th spot at this point in time. Anand Thorne is the other driver that's making their debut in the TCR category. So that does explain why we've got one out, one in effectively as it currently stands. So that does explain why there was 10 who have scored points this season and only 9 in attendance this weekend.
West, there we go. Okay, so eyes on the 97 machine here of young AUG. He looked a little squirmy through turn 4. So let's see here. First sector was a 25.5. This should be a competitive lap if the number 97 can put it all together, as in the pit lane is Zhang Zhendong. 30 seconds left and going up on the jacks. That will probably be the end of qualifying for Zhang in this session. So waiting to see if that will be enough to stay on the front row here today, as I'm seeing Umar Abdullah and Benny Sentoso have just moved up the order to 4th and 5th, pushed Anatorn down to P6 into the 146.1, 146.2 for Umar and Oh no, sorry.
I think Sentosa just had that lap
Benny
time deleted.
Sentoso's lap time has indeed just been deleted for track limits again.
A lot of locking of brakes on the 86 car. With Abdullah behind the wheel on the run down to turn 3. So that's something they'll have to manage throughout the 15 lap races that they've got later this afternoon and tomorrow for TCR Asia. Time has now expired, so checkered flag will be out at this point in time for Daipo. Might be able to get this lap in. Has now managed to set himself a valid lap time, 46.543. So worthwhile noting that from Umar Abdullah in 4th spot, 46.101, to Daipo in 9th spot, 46.543. 4/10 of a second covers 4th to 9th. So 6 cars covered by 4/10 of a second means that mid-pack battle is going to be exceptionally difficult to get right. I think, was that a fuel cap just popped open on the 14 machine? So they're going to add some fuel to that car.
I think so. They unfortunately actually missed seeing that there, so we have a chance to look inside the cab of one of these Hyundai Elantras. Hyundai M by Z-Speed team once again. As for the 97 of a young Kauji, just showing is actually already taking the checkered flag in the session, so, and that lap definitely not fully committed either as well. So just seeing here now that the only cars left on track to take the checker apparently Benny Sentoso and Lu Chi-ren, as everyone else, and Chi-ren across the line does a 47.1, proves their best time in the session, and Sentoso I think is headed to the pit lane because he's now just apparently shy of his the ETA, which is used to sort of give you a rough idea of sector timings and the like. So top 5 in pro are now 1 through 5, which is all 5 in pro are 1 through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then our 5 cup cars are lined up underneath them. So that's actually worked out very neatly in terms of qualifying results for Q1 here, Scott. And Q2 will be getting underway in just about 3 minutes' time. So not long until that one kicks off.
Well, I think this has actually been a really, really interesting points battle across the weekend. It's a 2-horse race, effectively, for the title. Managing the car and making sure... I think one of the big keys is that Max Hart's already proved I'm quicker here when we come to Buriram. This is my platform. This is where I do quite well. Whereas Zhang Jingdong has probably obviously done quite a few more laps, I would say. This is maybe an evener. And you'll probably see Zhang Jingdong get quicker as the weekend goes on as well. I would say they've both done less laps here at the Buriram International Circuit. So, you know, Max has done quite well at adapting quickly and being quick from the get-go. But Zhang Jingdong leads the way. You know, has 3 wins from 4 races on the season. The margin's 12 points. There's going to be 4 races from Buriram when we get to the end of September. So this weekend is quite key for Max. I think he has to win both races here this weekend if he's going to be a chance at the title. And, you know, the season finale, I'm not confident on the race results. I'm not seeing anything that suggests that the Macau round later on in November is actually going to count towards points. It could just be something that they go off and they do as a non-championship round, something to be a little bit of fun as a combined international round, potentially, which means that Ningbo could decide the championship for these guys, and that's going to favour Zhang Zhengdong. He is the Chinese driver from a Chinese circuit. He's going to be the favourite, particularly being a home favourite as well. So Max has got to win, I would say, at least 3 of the races from this weekend. At least 3 of the races from the next 2 rounds, if not all 4. If he can win all 4, go into the final round, and he's got a points lead, well, you're basically saying to Zhang Zhengdong, you've got to win at home. Now, there will be 2 more races from Ningbo, but which gives him an opportunity, but that puts a lot of pressure on Max this weekend. Started well. Now he's got to pull the guns out in qualifying number 2 as well, make sure that he's nice and consistent, but Zheng's getting closer. Every lap that Zhang Zhengdong turns, they're going, we're learning more about this car, we're feeling a little bit more confident. Perhaps there's a balance adjustment that they can make this afternoon for the race. So remember that, not enough time to make a setup adjustment here. They might change tyre pressures, that's it. So between qualifying 1 and qualifying 2.
I mean, just having some of the read of the material we were able to find as part of getting ready for this about TCR Asia, just sort of reading some of the description of how, say, this is from the first race of their season back in May at Sepang. And even looking at the times as well, qualifying results, Max Hart, absolutely comfortable in qualifying. His pit exit will open once more for Q2. So just remember, there is 10 minutes in this session. So not much time to get a lap in, as our Hyundai N by Z-Speed cars will head out first. They're ready to go. Other cars in the lane start following out in due course. But coming back to what I'm seeing from last time out, Max Hart's got qualifying pace that's really strong. Race pace, though, isn't as far ahead as to what qualifying might suggest. We had an update on how qualifying works.
Yep,
Yes,
so I can read that one for you.
Yeah,
So,
if you want to read that one there, yeah.
yeah, so effectively you were right. It is a bit of a shootout perspective. Your bottom two cars from Q1, which was... times have been deleted now off that session. Effectively, it's the top 8 cars go through to qualifying number 2 and have a secondary sort of shootout session. Starting grid run will be based on the combination of Q2 results, top 8, and then 9th and 10th will be decided from Q1 because they did partake in Q2. Then you're starting for the second race tomorrow afternoon is going to be top 6 reverse grid. 7th and 8th will be the same positions as they were from Q2. 9th and 10th, the same positions as they were from Q1. So this session is effectively going to set the grid for the back two. The 7th and 8th out of the... So effectively, if you get knocked out in Q1, you're 9th and 10th for both races across the weekend. As soon as you get through to this session, it's your top 6 drivers that finish the race. No, sorry, my apologies. I take that back. I've read that wrong again. Qualifying 2. So the top 6 here from this qualifying session get inverted. So we'll finish 6th in this session will be pole position for tomorrow. 7th and 8th will be the same positions from this session as they are in qualifying and race grid for tomorrow's race. And yeah, so it's not a reverse grid based upon finishing results from race number 1. It's reverse grid based upon qualifying results from this session.
Yes, okay. And I was just going to see here, transponders starting to update, because I was actually trying to see, I could only see a handful of cars, but I can now see 7 out on track on my track, on the tracker. So I'm just wondering, is there a car? Who we missed? Trying to see if I can find out as to who we might have. Oh no, hang on. Coming out of the pits right now just to answer that one there. It's the 82 of Daipo, Fitch Ramadan, who was in the pits for a moment. So a little delayed getting out. This is, another huge lock-up into turn 3, this time for Jiang Nan. And the 21 machine here by the Z-Speed Motorsport Hyundai Elantra. Well, Elantra i30N sedan. I actually don't know what this car would be considered in TCR Asia as to what regional name Hyundai gives this particular version of the car.
Elantra. Elantra is what's on the entry list, so.
Okay, there you go. I should pay attention. Find the entry list.
Mate, I've got stuff spread. I remember how I said I was disappointed I couldn't make Sepang. I've got stuff. I'm learning to commentate from a new setup at the moment, so don't you worry. I've got stuff spread everywhere and paperwork all over the desk. So I feel you. It's a scrap of getting everything in the right place as it currently stands. Daipo's still struggling. It looks like with those rear brakes and locking up just a little bit. So for him, something he needs to get a handle on early on in the weekend. I'm going to be expecting probably a few marks on rear tyres. It'll be interesting to see what the updates are for them. 4 minutes already out of this session. And the time's starting to come through. The difficulty's going to be, though, is the times have got to be valid, and they've got to be valid early, and they don't have a lot of time to bring these tyres in. Max Hart goes to the top of the timing sheets with a 46.754. Remember, he was into the 44s at the tail end of last session, so tyres still coming up to temperature and pressure. 5.5 minutes left on the clock now, nearly halfway through the session. 47.215 from Yang Hoji goes to second spot. Benny Santoso did set a 46.7, but lap time deleted for track limits infringements will shuffle him further down the field as it currently stands. So a lot of work to do for a number of drivers, least of which is Zhang Zhengdong. And the difficulty is, don't take too much out of the tyre before you got that temperature and pressure up. And he's clearly bringing that tyre in a touch more gently than the rest of them.
Yeah, well, just watching here as we focus on Huang Doyun, that car definitely struggling turns 5 and 6, which was not ideal, to say the least. Maybe just now starting to come into it a little more comfortably. It's always curious, as I said here, because this top 8 shootout style session that we've got here to determine the final grid for race 1, and to then also figure out, well, who potentially ends up starting towards the front end in race 2 on inversions. So currently only got 5 drivers out of the 8 that are currently on track that have lap times for now, as we've got eyes on Benny Santoso. As at top of the order, we're into the 143s. Zhang Zhendong puts in fastest time of the day and now goes to provisional pole for race 1, as Santoso here on screen will do a 45.1, which will be the fastest of our Cup category drivers. But after being a comfortable half second back in second place in Q1, here we are, Q2. Zhang Zhendong has arrived to put a barnstormer down on track. And in fact, Max Hart, I think, had a lap time potentially deleted for track limits because he's dropping back down the order rapidly. Yeah, confirmation. Max Hart's 3rd lap deleted for track limits.
He was second at the end of that second lap, so it was a reasonable lap. The other thing was, remember, we only had one driver in the 44s in that first session. Well, Huang Doyun has now jumped into the 44s as well. So I wonder whether or not they might have been scuffed sets of tyres, because it's just, the key thing is make it into the shootout, and then from the shootout, that sets grid for race 1 on pole position, and it'll be 6th spot effectively for the grid for race number 2 across the weekend. So the most important thing was qualify through from that first session, and there wasn't enough pressure to worry about putting on a set of green tyres. I reckon Zhang Zhendong has saved a set of tyres here. I don't know. The Max Hart definitely improved on his lap time.
Oh.
And the 21 machine of Zhang Nan now around, and that looks to be in the second sector.
That's
Has he lost that?
4.
I was going to say turn 4. That looks like the runoff down there.
Yeah, we're definitely zooming in from the grandstand area along the front straight here. So this is going to be problematic. If that car is dead, that is in a wide open asphalt runoff. They cannot afford to basically allow that car to stay there. Max Hart does get back to second place in the number 69 here on screen, the Hyundai M by Z Speed entry. But I get the feeling Zhang Zhendong has put in a flying lap at just the right time, because there's no way this session stays green. And indeed, timing screens say red flag, clock stopped at 2 minutes and 7 seconds remaining in the session. There we are, red flags are now out. So 2 minutes, that's enough time to do a moderately paced out lap and get back around to start another flyer.
That'll be it. That'll be quality. You won't have enough temperature and pressure in the tyres. There's no way.
Yeah, these cars indeed take a couple of laps to warm up. So yeah, I mean, some drivers might have a crack at it and see what they can do, Scott. But yeah, as you said, this is you'd expect will be the end of any competitive times in the session, as they are able to start wheeling Zhang Nan's Hyundai away from the circuit. Thankfully, it's not completely stuck. Say a gear, which helps out, but it's going to take a couple of minutes to get that car fully recovered. But yeah, here.
Something interesting I'll just put in the back of your mind, Dan, was just that shot that we saw from the grandstand before. I don't know if you paid attention to the lockup marks that were actually on the road there, but the rear end of that car came around right at the end of that. It was straight, all of a sudden spin at the very, very end.
Didn't quite catch that personally, but it was an odd spot, yeah.
Because he was facing in the wrong direction. And, yeah, it just... If the tyre marks had been spinning all the way in there, it would have made sense for him to potentially be backwards. I reckon there's a problem with that car. I don't know what that problem is, but the fact that he couldn't refire it and that they were wheeling it away, there could be an issue with that car. You may not see that car for the rest of the weekend.
I mean, yeah,
or at least for today.
Yeah, we'll have to see. They aren't back out on track until, well, this is their fifth race of the season, their first for the weekend. Isn't for pardon me, what's it? It's another 5 hours or so from now. They're the final. It's the final event of the day, their race to start off this weekend. So, all things considered, it could be, yeah, they could be able to get it fixed. But yeah, who knows? Might not be. I mean, yeah, I think the important thing you did point out there, and I would agree with, is that car more or less came to most of a stop, and then it did a very small spin by the looks of things. Okay, green flag back out. Clock is already ticking past 10 seconds since they've reopened the pits. Question is, with us focusing here on the static shot down the start-finish straight, I know all cars are starting to come back out, so they are going to have one more crack at it, but as we said, we expect the tyres going to be now a little off peak. Is there anyone who's got something left in them? They're going to have to also really push on this outlap here to make sure they get around in time. We are approaching 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining on the clock as we focus on drivers coming down into turn 3. They are going to be on the limit as to whether they get there in time.
Max Hart won't get a lap time in. He's too far back.
Yeah.
No, sir, my apologies. He leads the way. He was the first driver that got out. And Zheng Zhengdong was the second driver that got out. Yeah, so I'm thinking potentially Zhengdong, Hart, and the third car that's actually circulating is the 14 machine. So that's Huang Doyon. There's those three I think have got a chance. The rest of them I don't think are going to get another lap in here.
Well, so there's 1, 2, 3, and then the first car in the Cup category it's going to get through is Daipo Fitch Ramadan, who's actually impressively moving his way. He's currently holding down 6th place at the moment. Just looking at 40 seconds as he rounds turn 8. I reckon he gets back to the line as well. So he gets through. 3 cars behind him are the 56 of Benny Santoso, the 97 of Young Hao Ji, and the 28 is the last car on track of Anna Torn. You know, they're all going to get here in time. Well, the top 4 are going to get through in time. That's no problem. Our question is here for Daipo. He's got himself right up behind one of, I think it's Huang Doyong in front of him here. So he gets around. That's no problem. Who else gets across the line? The timing line is pretty quick after the final turn here. Will it be Benny Santoso, the last car across the line? I think it will be the 56 that gets through at the end. So only 5 cars through as the checkered flag flies. Now, can anyone find enough pace on just one outlap to improve?
Well, okay, I'm going to give you a number here because based upon our timing screens, what I've got in front of me is Benny Santoso didn't get across the line to start the session. I'm showing a checkered flag graphic, so this lap one will not count for him, and everyone that's behind him was Zhang Hoji and Anna Thorn. So 3 cars will already have their sessions complete. Lap time by Zheng Zhengdong has just gone out and set the purple first sector, so there is enough temperature, there is enough pressure, there is enough life in the circuit to try and find some time deep in the session. 25.113 now for Max Hart as he tries to go after him. He's only a couple of hundredths of a second slower through the first sector. 25.222 for Huang Doyon as well. He's found some lap time, but sector 2 times, 5/10 of a second. I can tell you, Zheng Zhengdong is on an absolute monster of a lap time at this point in the session. Doesn't need it. Sits pole position in the session. I don't think anyone else is going to improve and beat him. Huang Doyon now sets his best sector 2 lap time that he's currently set, and it's only 5/100ths of a second slower. At this point in time, Hart will not improve. I don't think there's enough life in that lap time for Max Hart, and in fact you can see he's not quite there in the background. No, that is Max Hart we're looking at was the leader of this series of cars back to the start finish line. It's gonna have to be a monster of a final sector for Max Hart. Out of the final sector, gets to the timing line, will be a 44.689, won't be an improvement. Zheng Zhengdong comes out of the final sector, 43.485, improves, and by the way, Huang Doyon, we were watching those sector times and improvement as well. He'll go to P2. Max Hart will be starting race 5 from the second row of the grid, and that is a little bit of an upset on the form guide.
That it is indeed. So looking here as well, last laps, Daipo Fitch Ramadan improves to a 45.569, 2 1,000ths of a second off of Jiang Nan. Doesn't get there in the final lap, but critically it means that Daipo will be our driver who starts the race 6 of the weekend for TCR, or race 6 of the championship for TCR Asia. tomorrow's race on pole position. So almost got there, not quite. Looks like, yes, Santosa didn't make the line in time, so that was his lap out. So yeah, just for Zhang Jindong, Huang Doyong, Max Hart, Diaper Fitromenon were the only cars to get across the line in time to improve. And all of them, I believe, did, except for Max Hart. So there you go. Q2 and TCR Asia qualifying run and done for the weekend. And now looks like they are just, a little bit of the post-race scrutineering and checks going on here. And with that, Scott, not too far away from first race of the weekend. Thailand Super Eco, race 5 of the championship. Coming up next, pit exit opens in just under 5 minutes' time, and the race will get underway in about 20 minutes' time. That is what we've got coming up next for you here, Scott. And now that we've seen the drivers push their qualifying laps, time to see how the racing action goes here this weekend.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see as well. Super Ecos is going to be a 12-lap affair as well. Been a while since they've last been out on track, and an opportunity for the drivers to get back out there and have another crack. We'll be back for that half an hour stanza worth of race in, I reckon, not too far. At the moment, it looks like we're actually 5 minutes behind schedule too. So actually, might be a couple minutes just before schedule. Its pit lane exit will open here in about 4 or 5 minutes actually. So we are just on time after a couple of red flags. You don't see a lot of red flags here for the Buriram International Circuit. We've seen 2 of them thus far today. Is that an omen of things left to come? You'll have to tune in for the remainder of the racing action as TCR Asia joins the coverage here for the Thailand Super Series. Back in a few moments with the first race of the weekend.
A warm welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we watch our next category take to the circuit and heading around to the pit lane. Thailand Super Eco is getting ready for race 5 of the championship here today. It'll be our first race of the weekend from the Buriram International Circuit, or the Chang International Circuit as well here. So looking forward to seeing how our pocket rockets go. Once again, we've got 29 drivers on the timing screens here who appear to be set to take the start. So a bumper field once again, as we like to see in these categories here. And looking forward to all the actions. As you can see, also fans, team members, and the like all heading to the grid as well. Daniel Yeaman here, thanks to speedcafe.com for the English language commentary broadcast. We'll have Scott Rankin back alongside me in a couple of moments. He's just stepped aside during the break to recharge and reset. But yeah, this now is the second half of the championship season for Thailand's Super Eco. And these categories here are basically 8 races across the year as they'll race one more time here at Chang in December, the final round of the season. Now, interim event that we'll be racing next is for the TSS Supercar categories rather than these Thailand Super Compact Eco Pickup categories coming on here. So basically a bit of a recap that I'll be looking to do. Well, first of all, let's quickly talk about how the grid is going to be set for these drivers here. Actually, has been rejoined by Scott Rankin, which is good to have you back here, Scott. But just having a quick look through how our drivers in Super Eco went. Qualifying times, over 2 minutes around here, this circuit here at Chang, but fastest time going to Tanapatra Sutasawang in the Fortron Nexta racing team, and is set to start the race on pole in the number 55 Suzuki Swift, 207.8 for him, and then a couple of cars in the 208s for Vongsapat Katsiri and Varunchit in the 33 and 89 respectively, and then a whole bunch of times in the 209. So it's pretty competitive once you start getting outside the top 3 in particular, and that certainly we'll be looking forward to what that does to our racing here today to kick things off.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting, right? We love this category because of how tight the racing is, and something interesting. The races, to be frank with you, within the Super Eco class is always interesting. There's always something happening. You kind of can't take your eyes off it. 12 laps is going to be one of the more exciting formats as well, and we're just taking a look at the cars up and down as well. There's been a number of drivers over probably the last couple of years that have just been consistently super quick, and yeah, it's tough to go past those guys that have just scored big points right throughout the season thus far. There's so many good names here that have been in racing these cars for such a long period of time as well.
Yeah, that indeed as well. Just have a quick look at some of our informations that's been provided for this weekend, just namely some of the documents and published by the series. One of the things you might have noticed, for example, I've actually got a document here confirming that pit speed limit here at Chang for all categories is 60 kilometers an hour this weekend. Noting also there was some stuff in here about there's a bulletin published about regulation clarifications. Interestingly, what do we got here? If you wish to make any requests, you have to submit them by 6:30 p.m. on the day that you wish. Otherwise, you must do it from 8 a.m. the day after. There's a reference to stop and go penalties. Do them in your own pit box, and you must time them yourselves. Interesting here. A third note. There's actually one that we maybe shouldn't have taken on here. Any car pushed into the garage for repairs during qualifying or a race session will not be allowed to rejoin the session. So that's one to know. Because you mentioned we were talking about red flags and how that might change things. Well, if a red flag comes out and your car's damaged, that's going to be it. If you have to put it back in the garage to fix it up.
There is logic behind that, and the logic is they tend to want to re-scrutiny a car to have a look at it to make sure it's not dumping fluids, dumping whatever, basically back down onto the circuit, doing damage to the circuit that's otherwise going to impact the weekend. So that's all from a place of logic.
All right, and Well, yeah. Speaking about Thailand Super Eco so far this year, just have a quick look at remind myself of where we've come from in this one so far, and thankfully those results are up on the Thailand Super Series.net website, and currently on top of the standings, it's Hayden Haikal in the number 35 Suzuki Swift, one of our drivers who races as part of basically the Thailand Super Eco overall division. He currently leads the championship on 52 points. And the next best drivers, Varunchit and Vongsapat, tied for second place on 30 points. There's a goodie down on the grid as part of the final parts of pre-race information. Unfortunately, we don't have any audio from this part of the show here, so that's a shame. In saying that, with the top 6 drivers all from Thailand, it's likely he would be talking with them all in Thai, and still need to add Thai language lessons to my to-do list, Scott. And so, you know what? You can't find the driver's standings. Let me throw them there for you. And in fact, you know what, folks? I'll drop it in the Thailand Super Series YouTube chat. It's
worthwhile keeping an eye on as well.
That's the PDF link to the PDF for the overall driver standings after the first 4 races of the year. Because as I was just saying before you came back, we're already into the second half of the season for these guys. Only 8 races in these Thailand Super Series categories. And for Super Eco, this year we're already by the end of today and tomorrow, we're 3/4 of the way through the championship for these guys. So it's going to be close.
Yeah, I think the big key as well is when you have a look at Hayden Haikal, though. Race 1, race 2 was back here at Buriram, and he got a 3rd place in race 2. 4th place in race 1. Didn't score points in race number 2 as well. And there is a lot of that up and down the field. Vongsapat in the 33 entry won race 1 and finished 5th in race number 2. Varunchit, who sits tied 2nd in points, 4th place in race 1. 5th place in race 1. No points in race 2. So, you know, it's a little bit grab the points where you possibly can. Somebody that scored points in every race of the season, you actually have to look a fair way back before you hit the first guy who's actually scored points in every race of the season. It's actually 10th place Sathapond in the 25 entry on 19 points. He's got less than half of our series leaders' points. So, you know, Hayden Haikal with one finish outside the points has got 3 extremely high point finishes, and that's why he's leading the championship at the moment. 22 points, not insurmountable, but effectively you got to divide that by 4. You're looking to take 5 to 6 points out of him over the rest of the races this season. Didn't have a great outing last time at Buriram, and Vongsapat did. He scored 30 points across the 2 races. So if he can achieve that yet again, he's back in with a shout to lead the way, and that's Varunchit that they're talking to from the front couple rows of the grid, and Goody as well down there. So, he's looking once again confident back towards the front, but standing start, that'll change things very, very quickly.
Yeah, that will indeed. And also consider, the shorter races, the categories that run these shorter race weekends. Only 20 points is 20 points for a race win, and then it looks like it's 15 for second. 12 for 3rd, 10 might be for 4th place if I'm reading this correctly here, and then it would mean 8 for 5th, 6 for 5th. Just get this right in my head. 4 for 6th, 3 for 7th, 2 for 8th, 1 for 9th, and then none for 10th. I think that's what I'm seeing here from the points scheme. There's basically, just rattle them off here. 20 is the biggest number, then 15 is the next biggest, 12 is the 3rd largest, 10 is 4th largest, 8 for 5th, 6 for 5th. That's a real crossover head scratcher. For some reason, my brain is really struggling with that split. Going like, you get 8 points for 4th. What did I say? 8 points for 5th, and then 6 points for. Wait, hang on.
Moving on.
20,
moving on.
15.
Moving on.
No, I need to. Yeah, good point. I need to move on. Sorry.
I'm just looking deeper in the points as well. Worthwhile noting that Chase Chakras Parks, I remember talking about a lot about him from Buriram earlier in the year. Fourth quickest in qualifying, was sit off the outside of row number 2. I believe he had contact in both the races from Buriram last time out. He did get 8 points in race number 1, DNF in race number 2. Also DNF'd the first race at Bang Sen, and no points in the second race at Bang Sen. So he's been involved in the wars like you wouldn't believe. He's scored a total of 8 points. I think he's got to put points on the board today. I think that's a really, really big opportunity for him, because if he scores points, if he scores 10 points from this race, he jumps 4 spots in terms of the championship, unless one of those other guys actually goes ahead and scores a lot of the points. Adapon in 11th place in terms of point, the 25 entry. Hasn't qualified well this time out, but he's been reasonably quick. And in fact, I think he's actually been replaced in that car, because the 25 entry's now got Pancha behind the wheel. So I wonder whether or not there was a change up there. The problem it's the 26 car I'm looking at, not the 25. He sits 11th in terms of things. So his best result of the season, Buriram race number 2, second. Remember, he drove through the field both races last time we were at Buriram, didn't have good qualifying both races, 3 DNFs, still sits 11th. He's actually ahead of Chase Chakras Park. So if Chakras Park's qualified 4th, a lot of pace in that car, a lot of opportunity, but needs to finish a couple of races. Adapon's the other one who needs to finish a lot of races. So stick that in the back of your mind.
That's true. I mean, yeah. Only the top 10 score points. There's 29 drivers on track as well, to keep in mind. Now, so as that's the overall driver standings, when you also have to look at the majority of the drivers race in Eco C Plus here, denoted by the orange numbers, and also I think they all have the plus there next to their numbers on the doors. They race separately and have their own. There's also separate points allocations for them. And then you've got our couple of drivers who are in Eco Class C, Sitsanun, Alisa Kunkwang, and Sidrakran. 3 drivers there. They've got their own points scoring being done for that there as well. So a couple of different levels of points to worry about as well, as I've now sort of also got my head around it. Top 10 drivers score points in the category, and from that, I should be able to make sense of it all.
I think you're going to spend the weekend wrapping your brain around that one, Dan. But the biggest story of the weekend, Dan attempts to do points math.
Points math without a spreadsheet to make my life a little easier.
Because I know you'd have it all hands down if there was a spreadsheet in front of you. I know you would.
If I could plug it all into numbers, there we'd be absolutely swimming here. I'm seeing some minor issues for my production feed. That might just be a me thing rather than a broadcasting. I'm being told it is definitely a me thing, so I might just quickly dip and try and get that to fix itself, because
yep, no worries.
I've been having all kinds of dramas with voice communication and stuff. But it's definitely a me problem, thankfully, not a broadcast thing.
Yeah, so not only is Dan having problems with math, he's also having technical issues. Warm-up lap for your Thailand Super Ecos. First race of weekend this weekend. Race number 5 of an 8-race championship for all the classes that you will be seeing in action this weekend. These guys will not be on track until all the way through in December. So it'll be a long calm down towards the end of the year. Shang International Circuit plays host to Thailand Super Series once more. Your pole position driver, by the way, is going to be that of the 55 of Thanapatra, who, in terms of the overall points, has some work to do. Sits 9th overall, 20 points, only 1 win from race number 2. Didn't start race number 1 all the way back in May, and now gives himself an opportunity. He'll be off the front row. Off alongside of him, Vongsapat in the 33 entry, who sits a little bit deeper in terms of the points as well. I don't think there's a lot of points on the board for the 33 car thus far this season. No, sorry, my apologies. Sits second, equal second in terms of your point standings. Aventus RS4 semi-slick tyre will be the tyre of choice for racing action here in your Super Eco categories, and we'll get into that grid, I can tell you, in just a few moments. So it'll be Thanapatra from Vongsapat in your front row, 55 in the 33, 89 of Varanchit off alongside of Chase Chakras Parks, 41. Then it'll be Visitpong Charter in the 7 off alongside of Patawi in the 79 on row number 3. Row number 4 will be Hayden Haikal, championship leader, off of the 4th row, could find himself in some drum. The 56 of Boontavi will be off alongside of him. We'll move back to row number 5, we will find Sorich 61 off alongside of the 53 of Super Truck. Adapon in the 26 car will be off of row number 6 alongside of Panatan's 36, Firinats 45 and Cabins 91. The 2 of Yacht Bunchu off alongside of the 54 of Thanakorn on row number 8 rounds out your top 16. Wing Hong in the 21 and Hakim bin Haikal in 18th in the 24 machine. 19th will be Rapid Corns 87 and the 12 of Jade will round out your top 20. We'll get back over to 21st, which will be Achinapacha in the 66, the 59 of Elisa Kung Kwang in your C-Class driver, sits second in the championship. Pancha in the 25, the 9 of Aniki bin Hafifi in 24th was asked to race control earlier on in the weekend as well. Kachapan in the 44, off of 25th, the 88 of Tenet Pong. 16 Kitsifat and the Furipat 68, and finally your final entry, the 29 of Furipat. 68 of Frupat, my apologies, off of the rear of the field, so it looks like there was a little bit of shuffling. The form up, standing start time down, and Hayden Haikal, some work to do off of that 4th row of the grid, but is comfortable on points. You think he'll be aggressive? I think there's only one way Hayden Haikal knows to race.
Yes, indeed. Well, here we are now, pulling up on the grid, Scott. So not too far away from getting the standing start for Thailand Super Eco. And looks like my timing says that they're all still crawling around. So that's a little, I'll get resynced hopefully in good time. But yeah, and all good to see. We're going to have an onboard camera hopefully to look at during the race here. Chase Chakras Parks, number 41. M&M shot by Next Up machine here. It looks to have one of the cameras. How's that there for angle on the front row as well? For both drivers, Scott, they're both aiming for the middle of the road. Tanapatra, I believe, was on the the right side of shot outside the racing line. Yeah, it is. Definitely can see the green number there on his windscreen versus Vongsapat. The number 33 is orange for the Eco C+ category. I think we are just waiting for, there we go, green flag at the back of the field. So it's now time for the lights to start coming on at the gantry here, Scott. Race 5 of the championship for Thailand Super Eco of 2024 is underway from the Chiang International Circuit as they roar to life here in these pocket rockets. And it will be Tanapatra who gets the lead down towards turn 1. And Vongsapat will have to defend from the number 89 of Varunchit, as though Kai has not gotten away at the back of the field.
Yeah, and that's a lot of smoke coming out of the radiator area on the front right-hand corner of that car. I can tell you, I've been in that situation the last couple of weeks myself, with fluid being dumped from the front end of a race car. Chase Chakras Parks is going to try and see what he can do, but have a look at the cars all the way to the inside on the run down to turn number 3. They're just about into the back of each other as they hit the brakes for the first major braking zone of race number 5. The 33 machine will try and line himself up. Vongsapat sits second in the championship, an opportunity to try and strike out and grab some points back. He'll be looking not to battle. He'll see if they can run away at the front end of this thing and have a look at the battle for 4th. It is exceptionally heavily fought. Chakras Parks has lost 2 spots, I think, from the start. I think he's sitting 6th in terms of the order at the moment. No real straight line drive. Look at him just get streamrolled past as one of the Audi B-Quik teams goes rolling on past them. Maybe a little bit of contact on the entry to 4 as they're all just a little bit out of shape. The run down to 5 now as they apply the brakes, and that will be the 26 machine of Adapon already getting aggressive. I think he's just about towards the back end of the top 5.
Top 3 here now on screens. They've run through turn 7 there. The breakaway here, it seems, for the start of this one. Tanapatra, Sudasawang, Vongsapat, Katsiri, and Varunchit. Well, actually, I might not butcher those names any more than I already am. But how's that there, though, through turn 8 from Tanapatra? 55 is probably abusing the track limits some, and we see it a little bit further back as well. Drivers not afraid to run past the white line and the curb for good measure here. As so far, we're still green. I'm going to hope that means the car that did stall at the back of the field, the 68 of Purupat, got away before we got anywhere near the field approaching at racing speed. So you get top 3 single file, but how's that there for 4th place? As I think that was according to my timing, apparently it was Chase Checker's back at the start, but no, it will be I think Hakim bin Haikal. We'll wait for the timing to update to actually get a fix on which of the overall cars that was, as Transponder's also having a bit of a headache. But how's that there for just like the top 3 and then all of this, Scott, down the front straight?
I think one of the biggest keys is that they're letting Hayden Haikal lead. That might be a smart decision. If you can stay attached to Haikal, perhaps he can drive you all the way. Actually, sorry, not this Padawi. My apologies, the 79 machine who was at the front end of that group. It is the 35 machine whose transponder isn't working, so, but it is Hayden Haikal that sits there 4th on the road with no transponder down to the inside now. Padawi's going to try and slot as they get down into turn number 3. Haikal goes the long way around. It's 2 by 2 as they enter down in here, and it's going to be the 26 machine of Adapon who slices down the inside, runs the competition just a touch wide, and that was, I think, the 53 machine that he might have been alongside. No, it might have been the 36 actually. Penatana was on his outside. Look at Chakras Parks just getting swarmed at the moment. A lot of racing. And look at the car vibrate as the engine certainly goes right through the rev range on the run down to turn number 4. Haikal's been passed now as Padawi slots his way into 4th spot. Gets aggressive on the defense. They're all getting aggressive in this battle pack as well. Is there contact? I think Adapon might have been leading on someone in the background.
Definitely a good chance of that one here, as we're going to see a replay of a car pulling over side of the track. That there being the number 2 of Yop Boon Chu. In fact, has found the gravel on the exit of turn 3. We'll have to see if that means we're able to stay racing or not, as we watch here. Once again, live pitches the battle for 4th on back as they come up through turns 8 and 9. And the Padawi here going to try and now closely defend against Hayden Haikal. You've also got number 7 of Visitpong Charter here. So it's almost now 2 groups of 3 breaking away at the very front of the order as they work their way down towards the final turn. And saying that, you've got the next group of cars that are just in behind. And how's that there for preemptive defense from the 79? Padawi trying to cover that one off into the final turn, but it's not necessary. Hayden Haikal did not even budge from the preferred racing line into the corner there, Scott. He'd much rather take a more natural run through the final turn and up towards turn 1, it seems. He'll focus perhaps on the run to the turn 3 hairpin.
Yeah, and now the field spread really started to become apparent as well. Those top 3 are gone to the tune of 5 seconds. Well, they can basically wait a couple more laps, have their own battle, and no one will ever catch them. In the background, yellow car starts to shoot out and abuse track limits. The 7 machine of Visitpong now starting to line up.
Top 3.
Go. The top 3 are all certainly getting into it. Well, we thought they might wait a few laps longer. Chakras Parks takes a look over the left-hand side. Might be Thanon Corn. He's looking at just to see if he's in that rear-view mirror. The run down to turn number 3, looking to try and go 3 wide. Here comes the 79 machine. Padawi goes the long way around. 7 machine Visitpong. I'm interested to see how close indeed they are as they run through that first sector. But how good is the battle for 4th spot? And how good is Super Rico once again?
I think I was saying all of that. I think I saw 3 wide for the race lead off the turn 3 hairpin. Unfortunately, we're watching here this battle. Well, good as the battle is for 4th. We've got, I think, 3 wide for the leaders. Tragically in the pit lane, punch away Prip in the number 25 for the B-Quik Racing team. Honda Brio has had to park it up. It's into the turn 4 and 5. We've got cars flinging it around the outside. We've got these guys still fighting for 4th. We've barely got the race started. It's mental.
Haikal's still got the nose in there. I didn't think there was a hole for the 35 machine to find his way back on in there, but he's managed to do that one once again. Gets the 5th spot back off the 7 machine of Visitpong. And there's the yellow flag down at turn 3 once more. And Visitpong now just about trying to apply a little bit of the paintwork from the front end of the 7 machine to Hayden Haikal, Suzuki Swift, and they'll all sort themselves for now. Buys a little bit of time now for Padawi and the 79 to run away. And the race leaders are trying to run. There's 0.3 of a second in it. Now it's going to be a slice down the inside. Haikal's going to have to watch his mirrors as he turns in. Goes the long way around. Has to use the track limits on the exit of the final corner. Such was the dive from Visitpong down the inside. And can you tell that these guys have been racing for 3 laps? There's 9 more to go, and they've been going toe-to-toe. Can they do it for 9 more laps cleanly? Well, I can tell you, the 26 machine has certainly got a little bit of paint train, and I don't know how many times that's happened this season, but most fenders, Ben, I'd probably award it to the 26.
All right, coming down towards turn 3. We did have a message about a yellow flag down here earlier. Well, these guys either haven't got the memo or it's gone back to green because we're side by side. We've got, look, cars over on the racing line, Hayden Highcal. You've got these two here, Visit Pong and Panatan, going for who can run the tightest on the way into the corner. And I think possibly a bit of a mischief there from the 7, Visit Pong, but it doesn't seem to hurt him all too much initially on the exit. As here we go back to the race leader, single file this time on the run up to turns 4 and 5. And it's still Tanapatra leading the way in the number 55. Although, just as I say that, here comes Vongsapat to the inside at turn 5, and he's going to muscle Tanapatra off the road to get that one done.
Baranchit says 3 wide. Yes, I'll have that one, boys. You can squabble for the race lead. Little bit of contact, paint traded. Now as they come down through 6 and 7. Now Baranchit's outside the track boundaries, but he wasn't afforded any room to get back onto the track. I think he was forced out there. He's going to try and swing it in from right around the outside. In the green 89, he's going to have another cracker as well. Forces the cover now from Vongsapat, who leads the way nearly into the background of him as well. And Tanapatra might have crossed the start-finish line first last time, but now he's third. And look at the swarm of Hornets that have rejoined in the battle for 4th as well. Highcal's now got his way. This is actually for 5th because now the 79 machine of Padawi's managed to make a breakaway as these guys were squabbling for it. But it's going to be about a 6 or 7 car battle for 5th spot.
Oh, it's a pack of angry Hornets. As race leads exchange hands again, now it's going to be Varunchit who leads them across the line, although Tanapatra to his inside will look to take that one away at turn 1, as then you watch the pack behind for 5th make their way through the final turn.
Dan, I might be showing my true nerdy colours here, but the only thing going through my mind at this point in time, the most important quote I can think for this one is, "For the Horde."
That seems pretty appropriate. Unfortunately, I'm not so clued up on the law there in behind it. How's this also that's come through from race control? A message that says, "Reminder all drivers, please respect track limits." Well, I think they might need to be a little more... Oh, I don't know, sorry, it's been updated from "please respect the track limits" to all caps, "you must respect the track limits." Right, we'll see if that changes things, because these drivers appear to have a bit of a no-holds-barred approach at this point in time. Highcal, absolute shocker through turn 3. It's going to let 2 cars through in the form of, well, I think the white Honda there is the 56 of Buntavi. It's Panatan now in front of him as well as they make the run out of turn 3.
I think the difficulty, the reason we're seeing that from race control is basically cars are parking themselves up against the track limits with a car on the outside. And that's the reason race control is saying something. You remember last time through, Varanchit, whilst he might have led again at the end of last lap, sits 3rd at this point in time. He was outside the track boundaries right there on the exit of this corner. And the reason for that, because Vongsapat was on the edge of the track boundaries. He couldn't have come in if he liked to. And once again, it's going to be Vongsapat defending mightily from Tanapatra, who tries to fire it back down the inside as they get down to the back half of the lap. It is being squabbled for, and, well, if there's 3 or 4 wide, I don't know that race control can ask the drivers really to respect the track limits. They can try. I just don't think it's going to be heeded.
Well, that's what the rules are there for. We've already had warnings and black and white flags that have been issued as a result of the way they've been racing out there so far. So keep that in mind. We're still barely a quarter of the way through the race. In fact, we are just over third. I can math. First third done. 7 laps to go here. Speaking of it, so the 53 machine there, a mile wide. And saying that, the 53 machine apparently classified in 24th. Well, that's not the battle for 24th. That is a battle of just the back of the top 10 at this stage. Another transport issues all around. The Series 6 machine of Adapon goes full 360 on the exit of turn 1. Thankfully, pointing back the right way soon enough. But that's going to be a painful loss of positions and time for that car there.
And the interesting thing was, I think he picked up a little bit of the curve on the inside. He did lean on the other car, but the car was already out of shape here. Oh, what a save from the 54 machine. The only reason that hasn't ended in disaster for about 4 or 5 cars is because the 54 of Thenencourt has used his brain to make sure they all get out of there without contact. Hayden Heikal now going to lead the battle once again for 5th place. It was Bouteville across the line in 5th place. Then a Patra back to the lead of the race, and that margin now is out to 6.5 seconds. It was more than that. It was up to about 8 seconds. These guys are starting to struggle, starting to fight each other, and Padawi, it's going to take a few laps, but if they keep this up, last lap time for these guys, 2:08s, and it looks like Padawi might have lost a little bit of time on that most recent lap, but a couple of laps ago, he was definitely further back, so he's starting to make time.
I'm seeing 2:09 for Vongsapat, who's now sitting second on the road from Tanapatra. Yeah, and then 2:10s for Tanapatra, Varunshit, and Padawi. So actually, he's going to have to find some... Yeah, I mean, look.
And I'm having problems with columns.
Last and best. Oh, indeed. Chase Chakras Parks. The M&M shot by next to car way off the track there. Now, is that at turn 8 or something? And he's also lost the front bumper for good measure too. Let's have a look at... Yeah, up into turn 8. So looking to the inside of the 53 machine, and the rear just goes around. Whoa! Has a bit of a lift off over the curb. And then through the gravel, it rips the front bumper off, heading backwards. And while all of that was happening, we saw it on screen briefly. And I've just been reminded of it as well. Scott Hakim bin Haikal, the number 24 machine, one of our overall competitors, has been issued a drive-through penalty for what we don't actually know. But that's going to put a nail in his race.
Well, I can tell you there's been a bunch of messages that came up at some point as now a lockup as the battle for the race lead continues to evolve. I've seen about 3 messages for incidents at turn 3 being investigated. So whatever it was, probably down at turn 3. Either way, back to the race lead, Vongsapat, albeit with a mark on those tyres now. Most recent laps for our race leaders, 2:08.589 for the 55, 2:09.369 for the 33, and a 2:09 flat for the 89, 2:10.060. Fastest lap of the race for Padovic, his fastest lap of the race. So he improves a fraction, and Bouteville back in 5th spot. Now looks like he's got a little bit of freedom, and he's starting to make some time as well. But half race distance, for him, he'd have to catch up close to about 9.5 seconds to get himself back into contention for that race lead, which will be difficult. But if they squabble, he's going to be the guy that comes through. The problem for him, Padawi stands in the road.
Yeah. The biggest thing for me is, Padawi's pace is dropping back towards this absolute scrum. Pardon me. This is the scrum in behind Bouteville, who's broken away from the front of it. How's this here? A message coming from the rest, a repeat of the drive-through penalty message being issued for Hakim bin Haikal. So there he is there in that the number 24, the second of our cars in this group here that's got the green eco class overall identification. Now, not obviously the penalty hasn't been served. I just think it seems it's only been like a lap or 2, but I guess they want him to serve this penalty pretty promptly by the sounds of it there. So we'll see if he makes a run for the pit lane this time by. Meanwhile, Hayden Haikal on the back of Panatent, as there goes Hakim bin Haikal in the background to the pit lane for that penalty there.
Yeah, well, they'd be pretty adamant. You've got to serve it this lap, get in, get it sorted, and get back on with it. The thing is, when the stewards issue a message, I think it was fair enough for him to potentially not have served it last lap, but absolutely needed to serve it this time by. The problem now, track limit warnings are starting to be handed out. And for the 7-car Visit Pong, who's been reasonably quick this race and certainly battling quite aggressively, he's on his final warning. Next one will be upgraded into a penalty and probably just a 5-second post-race penalty, and they'll start to get increased from there. Chase Chakras Parks, disappointed for him. Remember what I said at the top of the race as well, has not had a good run in terms of being able to... He's had speed, but not necessarily the finishes, and now the long way around for Danapatra down at turn 4, given the space though by the 33 machine of Vongsapat. They both are all wiggling, and remember, the semi-slick out here as well. This isn't the slick, and the tyres are starting to go off, and you can see the attitude in the cars start to change. The tyres are now beyond their best, and now it's going to take a skilled hand, a driver who's perhaps looked after their tyres just a wee bit. Perhaps it might be Varenchit who starts to find some speed.
Oh, Pat puts Stenopatra all the way to the outside. Barely on the curb entering turn 8 there. He wants to protect that one as hard as he can as they still scrap. We're just over halfway into the race. We've still got a whole second half of this race to go. And be mindful of this one here. I just want to have a quick look here and note that our top 3 do not have any alerts for track limits or warnings or black and white flags. So despite some of the racing we have seen from these guys, they're good to keep racing. As a replay here of the 36 of Panatan and the 35 of Hayden Heikel. A little crossover at turn 5. Oh, both of them. Well, Hayden barely within track limits. He's Panatan definitely outside the limits there on the corner exit. I think being pushed a little bit towards the edge, but back live with 4 to go. And once again, Vongsapat leading this one here fiercely from Tanapatra and Varunchit.
Can I remind you,
the hairpin again?
This is the first race of the weekend. We've got so much more of this yet to come, let alone what TCR Asia is going to bring us across the weekend. Best lap times of the race thus far, and you can see this front 3 have been allowed to sort of run away with it. Now the pinch breaks, and the tyres certainly starting to become a little bit second-hand. Last time by, fastest car on track was Buntavi Najit, who sits 5th on the road, now within less than a second to Padawi. So these guys need to squabble some more as Hayden squabble 3 wide as they entered into turn 3. No way, they all get out of there 4 wide down to the inside of the 7 machine. Visit Pong gets a little bit of an elbow, and they'll change hands. And now there's a few cars starting to look a little bit second hand. Why don't you? I think that might be Thenan Korn in the 54, who's got just a little bit of that wheel well. Heikel just about bumping doors, bumping tires with the 36 machine. Penatan takes some of that, he says, as they run down to turn number 4. Goes to the outside, the long way around. And oh boy, I don't know how this happens. Here comes the 7 machine, way too deep. Lock brake all the way out the other side. And the leader of this group, I think, was the 54 machine. No, it was the 56, I think, at this point in time. No, not Buntavi. Absolutely not Buntavi. It's one of the other cars that's in this group. 54 machine of Thenenkorn was way outside the track limits. There'll be an infringement notice for that on the screens, I can guarantee you, in just a short bit of time. But Heikel and Panatan no longer the best of friends. They're now trading paint. They're now trading track limits. They are now trading just about everything.
Oh man, Panatan refuses to get off the outside. Finally can't stick to the side of Hayden Heikel on the exit of turn 9. Although he certainly tried, and it means both of them have been throwing it out past the track limits down for several laps. And a go is in behind. It looks like Visitpong having a crack at the 53. Where is that? Part of it, 53 actually transponder not showing up properly. It's Super Chock, I think that was there in the back of the pack. So there you go. We've got the battle now. As these all need to update for me here to sort of get a sense. We've got top 3, then Buntavi and Padawi together. And then this bunch. Well, you've got Thanakorn, who's half clear of these guys, because we've got still side by side. Panatan's found the outside of Hayden Heikel once again. He might need to try the inside, Scott, if he wants any better luck at this rate.
You just see the car bouncing up and over the curbs on the exit at turn number 1 as well. Now the run down through the kink at turn 2. And once again, I haven't seen Visit Pong shy away from having a go at all these guys. Narrows the approach on the run down to turn number 3. He'll send it down the inside. The last time he sent it, there was a pinch break and running it very, very wide. How's the battle for the race lead? Not over either. Buntavi, by the way, got past Padawi on that most recent lap. Moves his way into 4th spot. Now the battle's for our race lead. 3 laps left to go, becomes probably about 2.5. And an update on the 36 machine. Panatan has been warned. His final warning for track limits breaches. Next one will be a penalty.
Well, watch out for that one there indeed. Now top 3, still no issues with track limits for them. So I guess if they're willing to maybe throw caution to the wind, they could do so. Here is, sideways entry from Von Sapak and Siri. He's outside the track limits. They're definitely as a result of that one there. He had that dancing on the way through turn 8. And as a result now, pretty rough through turn number 9. Can he gather it up and not lose speed? There's also been a final warning for Visitpong in the number 7 for track limits. So let's see here if those drivers, that pack there, that's for
Oh.
6th, 7th on back is side by side in the final turn as Tanapatra tried to throw it around the outside, can't get it pulled up and hold the position. They'll stack up behind Voltapak Ketsiri. 2 laps to go here in our first race of the weekend. Thailand Super Eco continues to, never ceases to disappoint, I think is probably the
Super Eco
right words.
racing nuts. 3 words that always go together in terms of your Thailand Super Series coverage. Now it's on. All 3 cars sit on the podium. All 3 cars think that they've got a shot at winning a race. And then in the background, you can see the battle that's on now for 4th spot between Boontavi and Padawi. They've managed to go with each other. Varanchit from the inside, back to the outside, switches as many times as he necessarily like. Gonna try and line these guys up and look for the big old switchback. The 33 machine gets a little bit unloaded on the center of the corner. Varanchit slends it down the inside, rotates the car nicely, does get underneath. Now he'll get the drive out the other side, looking to try and pull up and alongside the 55 machine. He's going to get squeezed out. The draft now goes the way of the 89 machine, and Varanchit trying to get the legs, the horses up and behind him to get the lead when they get down to 4. Now he's going to cover off from Thanapatra. Thanapatra's got nowhere left to run. And now Vongsapat will have to look in that rear view mirror for a bright green car who once again switches sides of the road. 1.5 laps left to run, and the braking zone down at turn 5 now navigated.
All right, here we go. Varunchit's been a little patient, it seems, up until now, and has decided, okay, 2 laps to go. You boys have been fighting. It's time to remind you that I'm here too, and I've still got something left to give in this race. Another warning has been issued, this time to the 41 car of Chase Chakras Parks for track limits, who's unfortunately still down in 18th place there on our timing screen. As a lock-up from Vongsapat through turn 9. Does that hurt him on the run to the final couple of corners? I'd say not really, because Varanchit was super wide himself. They're on the limit of grip, it seems, up through turns 8, 9, and 10 before they make the run down towards turn 12. Let's see here. This is actually a good shot here on the start-finish straight, looking to the final turn. Big dive on the brakes. He's going to get it pulled up for the final turn.
No way! Runs him wide, runs him out of space. Final lap board on display. 1 more lap for race number 5 for your Thailand.
3-1, turn 1.
3 wide on the run down the start finish straight. Varanchit backs out, looks to the outside. Thanapatra's going to slide it down the inside. He's been great on the brakes at the final corner. Round the outside at turn 1. Here comes the 33 of Vongsapat. Goes the long way round. Thanapatra now tries to find some sort of drive. Final run on the run down at turn number 3, and the lights start flashing for Vongsapat. That makes me think indeed there is live traffic that's going to be a part of this one. Final lap on the run down at turn number 3. Once more on the headlights. What does Thanapatra do? Tries to slice it to the inside. Little bit of a cover from the 33 machine. There's not really going to be a whole eventuate. Yes, there is. Here comes Thanapatra in the 55. Led early. Led a lot of the race. Now he's back to the point.
Oh, side by side though, I don't think Vongsapat's going to give this one up. He's going to be basically have his left side tyres in the dirt there as the curving ends. Varanchit got the run as well. Watch out for him. Swings hard right to open up the run through turn 4 as it's door banging between Vongsapat and Tanapatra, and it will be Varanchit who takes the lead round the outside of turn 4. Your race leader for the start of the lap for Vongsapat back to 3rd as we enter turn 5. Half a lap to go as the crisscrossing. Everyone throwing everything into these corners here. As a result, Tanapatra wide, slow. Through comes Vongsapat to the 33. No, Tanapatra refuses to give up through turn 7. And out goes the 33 way off on exit. Varanchit still leads his Scott. We've still got, though, a couple of turns left to sort this one out.
But Varanchit right now looks in the rear view mirror and he sees these guys fighting each other. They've cost themselves a whole bunch of momentum. Now it's about 4 car lengths between himself backwards to Thanapatra's 55 entry, and the 89 leads the way from the 55, from the 33. Vongsapat will be feel hard done by here. Let them as they come across the start finish line. Got pinched off by Thanapatra.
Look at the run from Tanapatra.
At this final corner on the anchors though, he tried to go the long way around. A couple laps left. And now he's going to look for the crisscross. Varanchit's got enough drive. He's going to get overlapped. Will there be enough time? There will not. Varanchit Shit wins race number 1 of the weekend. The 89 machine, who sits second in the point standing as well. How critical is that? Vongsapat sits third in the championship as well. How good is the fight for 4th spot between Padawi and Boontavi, who come across 4th and 5th? And that race, by the way, has the potential to start closing down this championship. Where's the 35 of Hayden Haikal? You know, there could only be a couple points in the championship after this race is finished, because Varan Shit sat second, was 22 points behind, might only be about 5 or 6 at the end of this one.
Wow, that was one for the books here. And just having a look there, the official margin on timing between Varan Shit for the race win versus Tanapatra in second place, 0.130 seconds. And the gap for the top 3 completely, so from Varan Shit to Vongsapat, 0.381 seconds. There was barely anything in it, and they were still doing 2-minute 10s on that final lap, despite how feisty that was getting for our top 3. They were actually some of the fastest cars out on track, despite all of it. So that tells you a lot about, well, one, how much fighting we didn't get to see there during the end of that race, and a lot about how much everyone was scrapping. I mean, having a look here, I can see a gap between Suprachoc and Adapong for 8th place, 0.099 seconds. Apparently, I'm seeing Chase Chakras Parks and Hakim bin Haikal at 0.001 seconds for 14th. There are some absolutely bonkers tiny margins on the timing screen here today from this first race of the weekend.
Yeah, the overall class category, Tanapatra will be home with the win from that one from Hayden Haikal, Hakim bin Haikal in third. I believe this will be your B-class drivers, Varan Shit, Vongsapat and Padawi. And then how did the Eco C drivers go? Elisa Kung Kwang managed to pick up the race win from Sitanun deeper in the field as well. And Elisa, I think, had some issues on lap number 1, so for her to cut back through the field and pick up some spots later on in that race, very, very important for championship hopes. That's how they crossed the line. Fastest lap time of the race, I believe, actually did go the way of Varan Shit with a 2:08.312. By the end of the race, 2 seconds a lap slower. Such was the aggressive fighting that went on in the middle of the field. And my word, Dan, bonkers. Bonkers. And I'll give you the update on that nerdy reference I made in the middle of the race. That's a World of Warcraft reference for the Horde. So now you've learned something about gaming from the weekend, which I didn't think you had on your card of things that was going to happen.
Well, I try not to bring too many things from the gaming world outside of perhaps, say, off references to sim racing. That seems to be our thing here when talking about the B-Quik Thailand Super Series. But yes, okay, we'll add that one to the roster of.
I never said I played WoW, by the way. I never said I played. I don't. I just know the pop culture reference.
Oh, man.
Have you ever heard the phrase Leroy Jenkins? Because that's also a WoW reference, and I think there was a lot of Leroy Jenkins in that race.
I have indeed heard that one in use, and I won't go there in terms of recreating it myself. And that's just one of our 5 races today. And if that's anything to go by, I get the feeling we're going to have a few more of those kind of ones today. Because up next, ladies and gentlemen, pit exit for the next race opening in about 5 to 6 minutes' time. Thailand Super Pickup Division 2, our Class C drivers, they have themselves a 12-lap race around this circuit here today. And, well, they might be much bigger cars. Well, they're trucks, in a sense, I guess. No surprises there that we're expecting that we're going to have ourselves a pretty crazy race there too. And then, of course, don't forget we've got Super Pickup Division 1 coming up later, and, of course, Thailand Super Compact, which will be our one. It's actually our one and only race this weekend that will have pit stops and the like to worry about there as well. So what we might do, as unfortunately we don't have any audio from Goody here in these post-race interviews, as he's talking with Varan Shit, I believe. Or it might be, no, pardon me, it's with Vongsapat he's talking with, starting off with Vongsapat at Siri in 3rd place. He'll work his way up the podium. We might need a short pause here to catch our breath. Your next race starting in 20 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Thailand Super Pickup Division 2. But stay with us here on Thailand Super Series YouTube and Facebook channels, or if you're with us on speedcafe.com, this is continuing coverage of the B-Quik Thailand Super Series from the Chang International Circuit. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gents. We're going to be stepping through the highlights reel now of the Thailand Super Eco categories before we get into the rest of the coverage that we had planned to deal with for the Thailand Super Pickup categories. So this was the drivers from the grid. Remember, it was about getting a reasonably clean getaway and setting sail into the sunset if you potentially could. That would be the difficulty, as everyone focused on setting themselves up and look at the aggressive angles on that front row. And the reason for that, those two would be fighting for a race win. The 89 that was in behind also fighting for a race win. You just wonder for Chase Chakras Parks. It was the 41 machine, gets swamped here, was struggling to try and find his position in the queue and just really struggled for a lot of setting himself in. Someone from the back of the grid did not get away, and I don't know if they were able to wheel that car away or they did fire off. There was one car at the tail end of the field that was not set up in the best of shapes to start that race. Whether or not they did continue on is not something we were aware of. The front three would break away nice and early, start their little battle pack, and they'd settle it down just a wee bit as the race progressed, though, Dan.
Well, that's putting it well. There's a couple of laps here. We're here at the start of the race where it was all no holds barred. Then it calmed down for a moment, and then, of course, it fired back up again right at the end of it. And on top of this, it was the battle for what was fifth. Just came sort of fourth at one point, so we ended up having a little splinter pack with two cars break away for fourth and fifth from everyone behind. So it ended up being this monster pack here. Unfortunately, Chase Chakras Parks was in the pack. Little mistake, he drinking up the inside of turn 8. Saw his car get light, flip around, and then also for insult to injury, rip the front bumper off there, going backwards through the gravel, and then has to get it refired as well for good measure. Thankfully, didn't interrupt the race. We had big dives like this into the hairpin here at turn 3. Such a massive track here at Chung, and then, as you called it, we had a moment of 4 wide there on the exit, although the tighter exits there meant they're a little slow off the corner. But track limits was the big one as well. We didn't see too many reports for that there, but it was pretty crazy here. And then as we get the final lap underway here, 3 wide for a moment into turn 1 before Varanship backed out and decided to try and play his cards right. You had the 33 machine there absolutely sideways through turn 1, and then leaning on each other Tanapatra and, pardon me, the 33. They're fighting each other so hard they actually let basically almost got distracted in a sense, and as a result, the 89 of Varanchuk got through there on the run to turn 4 and 5 and did not let it go as they came back across the line, and it would take the win there ahead of Tanapatra and Vongsapak Siri, driver 33. So your top three were fighting to the very end. And in many respects, Scott, for Varanchuk here, looked like the more patient of our three drivers on the podium there to start things off. At least in the middle phase, he was.
Yeah, quick early, and then it was just about settling down, making sure that you were in the right area of the track at the right time with the right amount of battling going on around you. He ticked all of those boxes and managed to pick himself up a race win. Right, ladies and gents, we cross back now to coverage for your Thailand Super Pickups. This is your C-Class drivers, though. So not the A and the B-Class drivers will be combined. That will come later on in the piece because before then, we've got to get through this. So it's going to be another 12-lap affair, and if you haven't been a part of the series thus far, this is certainly one of the more interesting categories across the weekend. Take your regular tray-back utes, add some aero devices to the front of the cars, spool up the turbos a little bit more, and throw a big old wing on the back end of these things. They slide around, so much of these trucks sliding around on the tarmac on a semi-slick tyre as well. Tyre wear is a big, big factor for these guys. So if you can look after the tyre through the middle of the race, could be worth 1.5, 2 seconds at the tail end of the race as well. Looking after those tyres down, not easy.
No, we saw it even in the Super Eco. Like those cars there, they dropped about 2 seconds a lap on pace towards the end of that one. Even if there's a short 12 laps, we'll see the same kind of thing happen here, I suspect. They'll maybe get 3-4 laps of peak pace, and then in the back half of the race, it'll definitely be a bit of a struggle to keep up with what they were doing early on in that one there. So, yeah, that will be a pretty tough one there. For the drivers to manage, but it does mean for these trucks here, even though they're our Class C drivers, as it were, it's our Division 2 field, 24 drivers, and they've got 5 minutes before they head off on the formation lap. They're going to have themselves plenty of exciting action to get through here as we have a look at a couple of drivers trying to get that last bit of water, fluids in themselves. Also, there you go, air into the engines. For these guys as well. So that they're the 28, pardon me, Chaiwat. He's starting out of 4th place and Suradet here out of 5th. So your top 3, by the way, Supermon Cole, Detpech on pole position for this one here, alongside Sarin Yu. Well, Sarin will be alongside him in the 54. And then Akachat in the 34 machine will be in 3rd place. And it's Chaiwat, Suradet on 4th, 5th, and sharing row 3 with the 50. Suradet will be Kittapong in the number 18. Then you've got Arnafap here in the 77. Oh, sevens all round for him today to start off. Scott Sang Chai, the number 90, will be out of 8th place. And in behind them for the top 10 will be the number 50 machine of Nurapong, who we see here on screen now. That'll be to the inside of that 5th row. And on the outside of the 5th row, it'll be the number 26 of Tassanai there on screen with us now as they're getting the last couple of preparations sorted for these guys.
Yep, so a little bit deeper in the field as that was all the way through, back through the top 10, 12 laps worth of racing action, and then after that we'll have your lunch break. After lunch, though, is where things start to get really interesting. Super Pickup Class A and B from 1:15 p.m. local Thailand time. After that will be your Super Compact, which will run for the hour plus 1 lap, starting at 2:25. The race start for that one. On-track action, pit lane exit opens about 2:10 local time, and then of course TCR Asia will not be the end of this afternoon's racing action. Sit in the middle. We'll have the second of the Super Eco races will be held. Tomorrow morning will be the first race, Super Compact, before lunch break, and then the rest of the racing action across the afternoon. 4 categories for Thailand Super Series racing action, and TCR Asia makes this a 5-race day on both your Saturday and Sunday's coverage of race event number 3 for the non-supercar categories. and races 5 and 6 of the 8-race championship to come across the course of the weekend into the second half of the season now. Points a very, very big factor for guys at the pointy end of the field. And I believe getting towards the back row of the grid as well, 42 machine, is going to be that of Wataya. And I think there might be a couple of gaps at the back end of the field because I'm showing, yeah, there is a few more cars that did not get out of pit lane, and that's a lot of cars. There's 6 cars, I think.
I think I'm seeing even maybe 7.
7, yeah. Interesting. Well, you missed the end of the pit lane exit opening. You're going to be doomed to start from the pit lane exit.
And there you can see a couple of the gaps there. It's in the back half of the field. Those gaps sort of making themselves known, it seems. And one of the trucks that did make it out, starting 23rd, or had the 23rd place grid spot for Krekpom, that'll basically be improved or be boosted up by a couple of spots there. So actually, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5, but I thought I counted 7 in the pit. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, that makes sense. 7. Because I can just see Krekpong's truck. That's the final truck on the front. I don't think he's got someone alongside him. So I think we're missing Metawin who was going to start 24th. Itasaki was going to start 22nd. From there, though, it's a bit hard to get a read on exactly which trucks and positions we were missing there.
They're all in the second half of the field, though, I think.
It is indeed the second half. Which one of the trucks is fired up and is solid smoke launch out the side of... In fact, actually, they're all just firing the engines up now. So, yep, the tried and true tradition of Thailand Super Pickup, big black smoke. Oh, dang it, I was just going to count how many trucks were on their rows there. And I think that was the top 10 or so were all in position. So, it might be a case of, a couple of trucks mid-order. Well, safety car will pull away from the field. And looks like in that case, we'll be getting a rolling start here in a second. As it looks like final confirmation. Yep, green flag and formation lap boards away at the timing line. So the drivers will begin to file off here in a second. One thing I did want to bring up here real quick before we get going, Scott, is championship standings as well. Championship leader at this current time is the 54 of Saranyu. Currently, though, on 42.5 points. Now, interestingly there, looks like half points were awarded for race number 4 of the championship from Bang Sen. And the man in second place, actually, interestingly, second place is Supermon Cole on 40 points. Tied with Akachat, though, in saying that. Both of those drivers retired once from the opening weekend at Chung. Since then, Supermon Cole won race 2 of the weekend at Chung, and then has 2 fourth place finishes from Bang Sen. Akachat, second place, race 1 of the year from Chung, DNF race 2, and then winning race 3, the first from Bang Seng. For comparison, then 5 points in race 2 at Bang Seng, which would be, I believe, 4th place there. So yeah, it's tight in the order. We've also got a tie for 5th place in the points. No, sorry, we don't. They're 1 point apart. Tie for 2nd, tie for 7th, 11th, 13th, 17th, and so on. But grid here on screen once again, Scott. And yeah, Superman Cole, Saranyu, Akachat, Chowat, your top 4. Suradet, Kittapong, Arnafap, and Sung Chai on the next 2 rows. At least they're going to set the start that way. Nudapong, Tassanai, your top 10. Arun and Pakorn for 11th and 12th. Tirasak, Krid, Wuchai, and Kitasak in your next 2 rows to 18th. 16th, sorry, Pichai, Rusta, Promote, and Wutai, your top 20. And the final 4 drivers in terms of the starting positions, Somnuk, Itasak, and Krekpong. In fact, how about that for Meta Win? Not actually listed here on the graphic. It is 24th. These are on our timing screens as being in 24th place, but that's who we're expecting to start this one off for our second race of the day. Rolling start this time, Scott, for 12 laps.
Yeah, and they'll start to form themselves up anywhere from about now. You'll sort of start to see the board that will be displayed as they come off the exit, I believe, of turn 9 to 10 as they build towards the final corner. 12 laps the distance before we get into the lunch break of about an hour. And already seeing the call, Thai Super Pickup greater than V8 Supercars across in YouTube land. We say hello to everyone that's been joining us across the coverage this weekend over, I believe, we're on Speed Cafe Facebook page, as well as the Thailand Super Series English broadcast over on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you with us. Racing fans make everything interesting, and getting to chat to them in between the racing action and engage with them as well is all part of the fun of modern day race car fans. Thailand Super Pickup Class C drivers form themselves up, get themselves ready for a start as the pace car will now pull away. Pole position for Supermon Cole. Can he convert that one into a race win for Saranu? Can he extend the championship lead? What can the drivers from rows 2 through 12 look to try and do for their championship hunts? Our safety car now in pit lane. Medical car formed up at the back end of the field. Moments from green flag racing from the front. And the pit lane always filled with the teams and the fans that get themselves down on it in there. 58 machine on the left-hand side of your screen will keep his eyes on the lights as we wait to go green. The lights are going to be off, and we are waiting for his Thailand Super Pickup first race of the weekend for these guys. They're C-Class drivers, and have a look at the swarm. Row number 2 did not get a good getaway. They're going to be 3 wide of the run into turn number 1. And I think it's the launch from row number 3 of the field that got the best getaway. It's a long way round and out of shape. The white car around the outside as well. And now the drivers that didn't get out of pit lane in time get released from the pit lane. And there's some work to do for drivers back here.
Here we are indeed. Down towards the hairpin for the first time. And the 50... No, it's not 54. 54, Darren Hughes out in front leading this one, I believe, as they work their way down into the hairpin there. You can see 2, 3 wide is still part of the norm here, even on lap 1. So that'll be Saranu leading from Supermon Cole at the front of the field. So the front row have been able to get through here. We've got an onboard shot here with the 34 of Akachat. We run down in towards turn number 4. Looks like Akachat's currently in 3rd place. Look how much steering lock, a lap 1 through turn 4. These trucks do not particularly like turning at speed, it seems, on the Hankook Ventus RS3 semi-slick. And it would definitely look like they've got a bit of work to do to warm these trucks up and get themselves into sort of prime operating windows. So, Saranu, Supermon Cole, Akachat, and 4th place is Kitapong in the number 18 as they lead up through turns 8 and 9 here on lap number 1. And for the most part, it's calmed down to single file for half a moment.
What did you just say, Dan? What did you just say?
I said half a moment. Half a moment for a reason.
Why wait until it breaks out into bedlam as they're going to begin the run down to the final corner for the first time at racing speed. 58 machine leads the way at this point in time. Supermon Cole out of the final corner. We'll get the run and look to try and take this one away. 2 wide in the background as they battle over 5th spot on the road for your Super Pickup drivers. And now they'll build up speed on the run into turn number 1. So it'll be Saranu from Akachat. Suradet's managed to make his way to 3rd spot. Nutapong into 4th, and the 28 machine of Chai Watt lost a bunch of spots, and Kitasak, I believe that was the 2 drivers that we saw fighting over 5th spot at the final corner.
Yeah, we've got a couple of transponders again, I think, Scott, because it's definitely Supermon Cole second on the road in between Saranu and Akachat, but currently Supermon Cole classified way down there on the timing tower and also on the timing screens as 18th place. So something going for a loop there is on the inside. We see all smoke. I think it was white smoke from a truck on the inside of the hairpin at turn 3. I don't think that's a good sign by any stretch. It means we continue to watch our top 3, 4 come through shot there at turns 4 and 5, but don't know yet which of the trucks it was towards the back of the field. I think that's had themselves a pretty nasty little issue there, it seems.
Yep, now they'll fire their way down through turn 5, and there it is, parked up on the side of the road. So that will be race over. Unfortunately, looks like the 35 machine I thought I saw for a flash there towards the tail end of the field. And race 5 looking to be over. And this is the battle that we were seeing early on as well, was these guys. That was this car right here, the 26 machine, that was on the opening lap out beyond track limits. But I believe it'll be Tassinite leads the way and gets a lot of attitude, gets on the power, and a snap of oversteer from him. And now the battle becomes sort yourselves out, settle yourselves down, and get back to racing, as these guys are all still squabbling like you wouldn't believe. I believe we do have a few issues with the timing at this point in time, so going to continue to try and call this one as we currently can. 2 laps now in the books, 10 more left to go. And the run down through turn number 1 for the 79 machine of Somnog as he leads this little battle pack. And is that more smoke that I'm just seeing at this point in time? I think it might be. So, it might be an eye out for somebody else who might have come to some sort of drama. Indeed, in the background, a 51 machine will make their way into pit lane. Will be Melwin, who's down in 16th spot at this point in time, running a little bit
race
wide.
lead.
Yep. And is that Super Moncol starting to run into some issues with that truck?
Well, that's Super Moncol going to the race lead from the second place. And Akachat, who we're on board with here, has now jumped up into second as well. So Sarah New dropping back 2 spots from the lead to third place as they come up through turns 7 and 8. You can also see there in the background, I believe that was Kitty Pole earlier on. As we watch them here. My apologies, actually, I'm getting them around the wrong way. Super Moncol 58, Sarah New in the 54, so actually I've been getting them wrong for a couple of laps now. My bad. Names, numbers, getting all crossed up and wrong as we watch them run down towards turn number 12 once again. So let's see here. So 54 from 34. So actually that now matches up. We had the 58 out front earlier and no more in that case as they work their way around the last turn. 2 laps down. Pardon me, sorry. 3 laps down. Another 9 to go as the number 20 machine pulls off to the side of the road. Promote. Unfortunately, it's come grind to a halt. We don't know where exactly. Did make it to the sector 2 time marker apparently, so it's somewhere up in the middle of the lap. We're thinking maybe turns 8 or 9 it could be. On for the lead though, Scott, into turn 3 here. It's Sarah New and Akachat.
Akachat's going to try and go the long way round, and Saranu just props him up, says, yep, I'm going to cover the inside, covers it well. Now we'll look for a little bit of momentum on the mid-corner. You can just see unwinding the steering wheel with a little bit of a slide, and a slide on the exit for Akachat as well. And there's the first of our retirements still parked up on the right-hand side, which I believe is the 35 machine of Suridat we saw, unfortunately. So, and there's more chaos out of the last corner. So I think that was 33 machine, was it not, of Risto's, unfortunately come spinning around and now starting to get a little bit closer. It looks like Akachat's protected those tyres quite nicely.
Yeah, don't forget, big pickup trucks, semi-slick tyres, do not fling them around too much. Now, while all of us see we've got yellow flags out at turn 12, about 33, although my timing says the 33 is now approaching the sector 1 timing marker, so that should be okay, and everything should be clear at the final turn. Don't forget in these super pickup categories, the amount of black smoke you spit out your exhaust pipes has to be closely monitored. As there we go, one of our Mitsubishi Tritons, unfortunately, in the pits. I just missed the car number there on the windscreen to confirm. There, 97 was that there? I think I spotted. Which is pitch high, and that matches up with who's in the pits currently. Okay, never mind. Sarah New and Akachat both getting all kinds of squirrely off the final turn as they come across the line. 4 laps complete.
There's another car just fed into the pit lane in the background of that shot as well. I don't think they were on the lead lap though, so that might have been one of the other cars. 77 entry, a lot deeper in the field. Arnafap, unfortunately, off the lead lap already. So some dramas for that car. It's dropped all the way off, and that's not fourth place that we're looking at. It's the back end of this one. I think it's got the hazard lights on just in behind these guys. So the 58 machine, once again, of Super Moncol trying to go around the outside, is not down in 16th spot. Unfortunately, had type dramas on lap number 1, but Akachat getting some Akachatter in the rear end as he gets out of turn 3.
As a result, look how far back he drops from the race lead of Saranu. Although still not too much pressure from Super Moncol in behind here as they work their way down in towards turn number 5. A little defensive and wide from Saranu. Big mistake there. Unforced error from the man who was leading the race. And new race leader will now be Akachat on the middle here of lap number 5 as they round up through turns 6 and 7 here. Approaches back half of the circuit once more.
I've got to be honest with you, Dan. I think the 34 machine's been quicker the last couple laps. It's just been about trying to build that overtake and do it nice and cleanly. I think he's had a fair bit of confidence in the fact that once he gets there and gets clear, he will start to run away a little bit, and you can see it already. Saranu's struggling to get the car to pitch in, and in fact, I think Super Moncol's already gone through it. Indeed he has. Yep. And there's another car, like I said, that's not actually in this battle, but feeds into the back end of this battle. Might have just come out of the pit lane.
That's Kittapong, I believe, from 4th, who is actually running in 4th.
Oh, it is indeed. Sorry, you're right. It is actually 4th place that's managed to make some ground. But Saranu's really struggling now with drive off of the corners. And to keep that car nice and balanced, he's either overdone the fronts or he's overdone the rears, or a combination of both, in which case he'll be in a lot of trouble. And you're right, it was the 18 machine of Kittapong.
Meanwhile, further back in the pack, fishtailing and then some for the 26 truck of Tassanai. That was one heck of a moment there through the final turn. To the right, to the left, back to the right again. And now trying to fend off, I think it's the number 50 truck of Nittapong, as parking it up is the number 10 machine of Arun there as well. That's an unfortunate sight to see. Another retirement here. These super pickup trucks apparently, well, we've seen them now. They're quite finicky things here, Scott, and seem to have a very narrow operating window that can be easily, well, found here. I think this is your Chung. It's such a high-speed circuit for these kinds of trucks. You've got two very long straights, 3 decently sized mid-straights as well to throw in the mix. The drivetrains take quite a bit of a beating, it seems, around here. As back to the 50, 26, and it's the number 90 there to make it 3-car fight. So this would be for 5th place, it would seem, with Nittapong and then Tassanai plus Sang Chai at this stage.
Yeah, and actually going to get a traffic limits warning coming for car number 50, which is Nittapong in the middle of this pack. And again, the tyres starting to get a little bit overheated, and Nittapong was one of those. The 12 machine is going to now make his way into pit lane as well, which is Pakon, and around goes the 33 machine as well. It's the second time that car's been around.
Final turn as well, bit of a sort of a difficult turn around there, but gets it going down the front straight as on screen there, as I was alluding to a little while earlier. Black smoke and how much you are putting out is very much carefully regulated in the series. Cars that currently have warnings for it: 79, 77, 20, 26, 28, 54. All had, and 58 apologies as well. So 7 trucks flagged for black smoke by race controllers. Looking at some replays here, it seems, at the moment, I think, Scott. Well, that might be back to live pictures here as we're looking at the 79, was it? And yeah, 79 and 97. Let's see here. I believe this might be for 11th place, although its timing, unfortunately, a little unclear. There's the spin for the 33. They're definitely a replay of what happened to Ruster.
I believe that's what we were trying to find just a few moments ago. Was the replay of what ended up happening to that one? They're going to do a tyre change. It might be a flat tyre on the 12 machine, but that's a lot of fluid being dumped on the way into the pit lane, and that's following it all the way up underneath the number 12. So I don't think that car will be continuing on any further in this race. But 6 laps down, half race distance now. Second half of the race and starting to really stretch the margin out, by the way. Akachat, last time by the start finish line, 5 seconds worth of race margin. Now, it might be the Super Moncol with the issues with timings managed to actually go with him, but that margin's 5 seconds back to Kittapong, who's managed to make his way past Saranu. So Saranu drops to what we believe will be 4th place at this point in time, and indeed it is Super Moncol that's managed to go with the 34 machine of Akachat. So it's still a two-way fight for the race win.
Dropped a long way back the drivers there who were leading at some. But look at that there. In fact, I think Saranyu's dropped back to 5th place, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Akachat, Sarany. There's another truck pulls over. This time it's a 26 of Tassanai. And that's on the run out of. No, there might be some damages. Oh, around on the exit of turn 11. That steering either fully locked on, or as noted in the background, that might be a little bit of damage. That's broken that left front there, Scott. But they're dropping like flies. I think we're up to like probably what, 7 or 8 cars that have had issues now at this point.
Was 4 missing off the timing. There's 1 in pit lane at this point in time, and Rustam Mali's, I think, had 2 spins, so that'd be 6 with issues. And if you want to count the timing issues for Super Moncol as well, I just heard a lot more tyre squealing, and I don't know whether or not that was safe or not. So that's the run out of turn 10 that that car is parked up. As they run down to the final corner between these 3.
I'm thinking looks to be the case. I haven't seen any signs of yellow flags alerted. He's spun and he's far enough off the racing line. It shouldn't be too much of a concern. At least that's what we hope at this stage. So those 3 trucks there, 30 and a few others, unfortunately, I missed who we had there for a second. As we go back towards the front of the field, Saranu here now has the 28 truck of Chai Watt in behind him. And looking to take that one away after leading confidently the first 3 or 4 laps of the race. All of a sudden, Saranu has had to massively dial it down, or has suddenly lost a whole bunch of performance because he's gone from being at the front to being way off. Your leaders, for reference. Speaking of leaders, well, that's not Akachat, but Super Moncol into the pit lane. Oh, and Saranu.
So both of these guys are going to come into the lane. I wonder whether or not there's some sort of drama, engine drama that a lot of these guys are having. Maybe they are overheating or having some sort of issues because they're both going to feed off into the pit lane. That's going to change up a whole bunch in terms of your race standing. So that will promote Kittapong to 2nd. Chai White now moves into 3rd. And Moncol just drives through. And around the 59 machine as well. So there's so much happening.
There is, yeah. Now I'm just trying to. Okay, so don't forget we do have several trucks that have been issued black smoke. It's known as black smoke. Now that would imply that it's drive-through penalties for black smoke that they've had to serve. And 58 and 54 both on that list, on the list of trucks that have been flagged for that in the timing messages from race control. It just doesn't say that it's explicitly a drive-through penalty or anything like that. But this is your race leader of Akachat, and he's now got a very comfortable margin back to anyone behind, which according to timing is Kittapong, and that does add up. It's just whether there's any other trucks that are out of position on timing that also might be in and amongst the fight there as well for 2nd on back. Although it would appear at the moment, according to timing, that everyone's had to fan out big time as they're all sort of trying to carefully make their way around here. And it's 97 off.
And manages to get that car refired and re-rolling at least. But they were for Pichai down in 14th spot previously, and that left-hand, right-hand blinker now on for Kittapong. It's been on for a fair while, so that one's just activated, and it's going to probably be like that for the rest of the race. Someone very wide. That was at the final corner. Indeed, it was.
Yeah.
at the final corner, and the runner out of that one onto the start-finish straight. Might have been Sang Chai's number 90, might be having some few issues. It was Super Moncol starting to cut his way back through. I believe this would be the battle right about where he was going to feed back in, so he's going to pick off one spot. 77 machine of Arnefap, I believe, also had issues with his timing, so no, that car's actually been in and out of the pit lane quite a number of times. The 28 machine now serves a drive-through penalty.
Black
And
smoke,
97 will be into the lane for whatever dramas was going on with this car, so I don't expect this one. And now the 82 has been on an off-track excursion somewhere.
Yeah, Crid Pius sub, and back in the pit lane. Yep, 97 parking in the pits. Cockpit, driver's door opened up. Look at that truck off in the background there has come out of turn 7 with our race leader in Akachat. Survival of, yeah, just like now it's rather than the case of running this race, just yeah, you can't go fast now. You apparently need to manage yourself very carefully, it seems, to be able to get home in this one here today. But we did, as I did say, there was quite a few DNFs that we recorded back when we last raced here.
A lot of them.
Chung. It does seem to be a track where these super pickup trucks really do struggle with the loads that are placed on them. So much time on throttle. At least that's what I think it is. Unless it's stuff like the brakes and stuff as well, having to manage those, given you've got some pretty big braking zones. There's replay of a couple of trucks there side by side at 50 and 93, sorry. So that's the fight for now apparently 4th place, I believe, if at least Nudapong being 4th in timing means that 93 of, where is 93? I can't even see a 93 on my timing. Am I blind? I might be.
I believe it might be the 90 machine. It'll either be the 28 or the 90.
90 also checks out. That makes some sense. Being told it was the 90, so I got it wrong. Anyways, back to live pictures. There's your top 2.
Something's happened to Kittapong because, okay, that's not a valid lap time for Kittapong. Something's gone on for the 18 machine because somehow he's managed to run a lap time 6 seconds faster than the fastest lap today. So timing's had an issue, or he's cut the track somewhere.
Well, here's who we believe to be the race leader in Akachat, coming up through turns 6 and 7. And Kittapong was in behind, and we should see him in behind again. Is that locking? No, that's smoke. Oh no, look at it coming out of the bonnet as well. Your race leader is dumping fluid, Scott. We're going to have another retirement here from the lead of the race this time. Oh, and it's all over the racing line as well, coming to the final lap. This truck's not making it back. It's barely going to make it back to the pits as is.
I think he's lost drive.
Oh, man.
Has he lost drive already? I think he might have.
Oh, look, is that also... Yeah, it's blown up on the windshield as well. Dropped out the bottom and at the top. So the race lead is now handed to Kittapong with 1 lap to go.
Well,
oh, my word.
They don't award points at the end of the 11th lap. They award them at the end of the 12th. So for Akachat, I don't know if he knows yet. I don't necessarily think that he'll know that he sits now with the race lead. And unfortunately, he's been told to park it immediately, not to continue any further down the pit lane. They do not want fluids on the pit lane entry surface, and he's run out of drive as well. So another car on the way into the pit lane in the background of that shot. But now he's going to lead 2 laps, and they're the final 2 laps of race number 5, Thailand Super Pickup Class 2. And there's still half a lap worth of the track to go, but he's got 16 seconds, and that was back to Akachat, and you'll probably have a lead of about 18 seconds by the time that they're all said and all done for number 18. So they'll be just telling him, just back it down, mate. There is no reason to push on. Manage all of your temperatures. Don't use too much of what we've got up. Nice and accurate home.
Turns 5 and 6, check them off the books. So, oh, And then an update as well has just come through from race control as we hear a whole lot of tyres screeching somewhere around the circuit. The 28 truck has been issued a drive-through penalty for speeding in pit lanes of a Chihuahua, having had to come down the pits for a black smoke penalty. That that ends up being a pretty rough one for him as tick off turn 9, swing through turns 10 and 11 for Kittapong. This has been a race of, well, it was 4th, then 2nd, and then to start the final lap first. There's the confirmation that
that's a radiator.
Dramas for the number 34.
That's an interesting one, Dan. Because I was looking at the splotches of fluid coming out of that car. There is both water and oil. And I reckon that's come out of the radiator as well. But the number 18 machine gets on the headlights, so he definitely knows now for Akachat that he's won that race. Race win for the number 18 truck. I'm sorry, Kittapong, my apologies, wrong driver. Nuthapong's going to come home in 2nd. 13 seconds just. So he dropped 6 seconds on that last lap to Kittapong. I think the team might have been saying to him, hey, mate, you've got a huge margin here. Need to back that one down. Chihuahua, by our numbers, gets home in 3rd. I'm seeing Super Moncol potentially home in 4th, or it would be 3rd or 4th for the 58 machine. Something happened to the timing on that car, and we don't have an accurate representation of where he finished the race. The one thing that we can be sure of, though, is your race winner will be Kittapong.
Yeah, that seems to be accurate, and well, that's what they've thrown the flag for as well. So, bit of question marks there over the exact race results for a couple of drivers as to where they've ended up. Couple of trucks, yeah, it feels like that they lost a lap. They've lost a lap on timing at minimum, but something about the out lap or lap 1 just didn't clock right with the system. But yeah, for Kittapong. Apparently today was a survival of the fittest race, not so much a matter of who has the fastest truck, it's whose truck isn't going to break down, and that would be his, it would seem. So it also do him some really good numbers for the championship, because he was sitting 4th coming into the championship within the Thailand Super Pickup Class C today, and he was only 9 points off the championship lead of Saranyu. So that will probably see him have a fair chance of jumping up towards the top of the championship going into race number 6 of the year tomorrow. But by timing, there's your top 3 of Kittapong, Nuthapong, and Chihuahua to round out that first race of Thailand Super Pickup Division 2 here from Chung this weekend. But, well, dramatic. Unfortunately, not quite the way we wanted it to be dramatic, based off of how much we were enjoying Thailand's Super Eco. Super Pickup delivers in its own sort of way, I guess.
Well, results on screen, albeit unofficial, because we do have to log in the time registered and the race for Super Moncol, where he actually finished in that one. Kittapong, that lap time is absolutely not the fastest lap time of that race, because there's no way he did a lap time faster than anyone's done in the A and B class times of the weekend. So take that one with a grain of salt. And for everyone, race number 5, run and done. And I agree with you. I think that Kittapong is going to step away and somehow manage to grab a championship lead, because Saranyu did not finish all that well off. I don't think he scored enough points to maintain the championship lead as they feed back into the pit lane. Yeah, number 50 car on the podium. Timing sheets will say 2nd. And we'll look for Super Moncol as well, and who they grab for 3rd place. But Kittapong will certainly be happy with that drive.
I mean, yeah, kept in touch with the top 3, as it looks like Chihuahua's being directed to pull up here on the podium, which matches up with what was recorded by timing and scoring. So, I mean, I guess, yeah, you can only really go off of what the timing and scoring says for the most part, unless there was an obvious issue. But saying I think the 28 does roughly, and saying that 28 had a drive-through penalty they picked up late in the race, speeding in the pits, which means they've come down the pit lane twice in a 12-lap race and somehow come away as timed 3rd. So Yeah, that one could be a solid question mark there on how on earth that's worked out for Chai Wat. But I guess, yeah, it's all you can work with for now as he gets a moment now to jump out of the truck and perhaps breathe a little bit and walk around. So Goody will have a chat with the podium here in a second. It might be a little controversial, though, as to exactly where everyone's meant to be in a moment. But with that said and done, Scott, unless there's a highlights package coming away in a couple of minutes, yeah. And I mean, we're being told, yeah, stick around. We'll have the highlights presented by the team at the circuit. But yeah, that's our second and final race before the lunchtime break done and dusted here, Scott. But yeah, more pickup truck racing coming this afternoon because we've got Thailand Super Pickup Division 1 drivers set to get out on track in, what is that? Just over an hour, just under an hour's time from Pit-X opening. Just over an hour until they take their green flag for their first race of the weekend.
Yeah, chatting to Chai Wat at the moment, and I think one of the interesting things that we've all spotted about Chai Wat is no radio system for the 28 car. He runs all of his communications to the pit wall via AirPod. Interesting. Could it be effective? Well, it seems to work for him at the Buriram International Circuit. And now we'll step across. Goody will have a chat to our classified second finisher of Nirapong in the number 50 machine. So reasonable race, reasonable points on board for him as well. And then they'll chat to Kittapong as well, race leader. The tricky thing, though, oil and radiator fluid mixed together generally says that's a very, very big drama. As you see in the background, the 54 machine of Saranyu get wheeled away. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's really going to hurt. You lead every lap. You look in a really, really good place, and then the truck doesn't make the finish line, unfortunately. And that's life. For the driver that led the bulk of the race, Sakachat. And there'll be some work to do to get that car repaired. That's not an easy little fix. That's a hefty bit of work, but not out until tomorrow. And that'll give him some time to work on that one. And you can see a very, very happy driver, Kittapong, with a race win under his belt. Potentially now your championship leader for Class C as well, which will be a big boon to him heading into race number 6 tomorrow. Clink. Consistent though, didn't do too much overtaking out on track, just put the car in all the right places all the right times.
Yeah, that he did indeed. And well, yeah, so I guess the thing is, yeah, with that there out of the way for these guys here and pick up the Class C, how much of that are we going to see, do you reckon, from our Class A and B drivers? Because again, same format, 12 laps. Rolling start apparently on the cards for that as well. So similar style of racing and schedule and everything like that. I wonder how many of the teams will have been taking lessons from seeing those cars there today struggle. As with that done by Goody, here come the highlights from Thailand Super Pickup Division number 2 for their 5th race of the championship.
Keeping cool on the grid, not easy to do. Need an umbrella or two to keep yourself nice, cool, calm and under control. And shots from the front into the grid. A lot less stress when you qualify in a reasonably good position. And that one from the number 50 machine. Deeper in the field, but comes away with a P2, so he'll be relatively happy with that one. And Super Pickup always very, very well supported down and on the grid as well. Then they fed off from the rolling start on the run down to turn number 1. It was the early lead for Super Monco on the 58 machine. Had a drama, dropped 2 spots, and then it kept kicking on after that as well. So it was race lead taken over by the 34 of Akachat. Akachat, however, would then later on have dramas of his own. It was battling in the mid-pack as well, and then it just sort of started. That was where the dramas began. Ran a little bit wide at the entry to turn 4 for Super Monco. And then they all started stepping through, and it was the 54 machine of Saranyu who led a few of the laps, and Akachak just sat quietly, got his opportunity, waited, and then led a whole bunch of laps. Had to keep the car underneath you, though. Had to make sure that you looked after the racing equipment in what is a very hot day over in Thailand. Difficult to get the cars to cool down. Well, maybe you don't overdrive them. Maybe you just save a little bit more in the tank. He was clean, he was quick, he was consistent. 69 machine. Bobbles as the rear end gets away from him right about the midpoint of the race, or just after the halfway mark. And then this battle pack started to get exciting because it could drive through penalty for black smoke from the 58 machine of Super Moncolt, led him to drive through. This was the moment that our race lead changed hands once again. 34, unfortunately, expiring within 2 laps to the end of the race. And he only led a couple laps, but in the end, the books will show he won the race by 13 seconds, albeit dropping 6 seconds on the last lap, driving incredibly cleanly. He had margin in hand, didn't need to drive it exceptionally hard, and as a result, didn't drive it exceptionally hard all the way to the start-finish line to win. That would be the truck that would come home in second place. Nurapong would grab that one, and then let the celebrations begin for your Thailand Super Pickup Class D2. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step away. Lunchtime now in Buriram, and that means the driver's going to be taking a 60-minute break. We'll be back with you for all the action on the other side of the break. We're going to start ourselves off with Super Pickup Class A and B, and we'll see you in just over an hour.